Welcome back to the June 16, 2026 Council meeting work session. We will resume our meeting with a proclamation recognizing Elder Abuse Awareness Day by Councilmember Katz alongside our County Executive Mark Eldridge. If you're here for that proclamation, please come forward.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being with us. As the county executive just pointed out, that he and I are the elders here today for this event, but we're here to recognize World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Too often, older residents are the victims of abuse, neglect, and/or financial exploitation. This problem affects people of every background, social, economic status, and culture, and can have long-lasting and devastating impacts on their life. Our county created a Montgomery County Elder Vulnerable Adult Abuse Task Force, whose members include representatives from the state's attorney's office, police department, health and human services department, and fire and rescue. This past February, Montgomery County Police and the FBI announced that arrests were made in an international fraud scheme following years-long investigations into a scam that originated in call centers in India. More than $6 million of the financial losses resulting from the scam have come from nearly 24 victims in Maryland, and at least 10 of the victims were from Montgomery County. Just last year, a man was convicted of helping target and cheat 2 people over the age of 70 in Montgomery County through a gold bar scam. This scam involved tricking people into converting their entire savings into gold bars and handing them over to criminals posing as people who were to safeguard their money. In closing, the 16th Annual Montgomery County 2026 Older Adult Safety Forum will take place on Wednesday, June 17th at 10 o'clock a.m. at the Schweinhut Senior Center in Silver Spring, and will focus on an at-large friendly and longevity-ready older community. We must stop older abuse in all forms, as our older adults are the heart and soul of our families and our communities. And if you think you might be a victim or know someone who might be a victim of fraud, contact Montgomery County Police at 240-777-3636. Thank you. We're going to hear from the county executive, and then we're going to hear from Dr. Patrice McGee from HHS, and then we're going to introduce the people will introduce themselves behind us, and then we're going to read a proclamation. Mr. County Executive.
That should work. Sydney and I are very close in age.
He's older. He's
a couple of months. Come on.
Older's older.
Tennis match, anyone? World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, WEAD, which is the acronym I'm going to use for the rest of this, was launched 20 years ago on June 15, 2006 by the International Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse and the World Health Organization at the United Nations. The purpose of WEAD is to raise awareness of the issue of elder abuse and neglect and to promote the rights and well-being of older people. Elder abuse is a serious problem affecting millions of people around the world, and it can take many different forms, including physical, emotional, and financial exploitation, as well as neglecting an elder's needs. WEAD provides an opportunity for communities around the world to promote a better understanding of abuse, neglect, and exploitation of older persons, and to take action to prevent it. In addition, WEAD is in support of the United Nations International Plan of Action, which acknowledges the significance of elder abuse as a public health and human rights issue. Tomorrow, on June 17th, it'll mark the 16th anniversary of Montgomery County agencies joining together to present an older adult safety forum for older adults and their families, caregivers, and elder care professionals in recognition of WEAD. The Montgomery County Older Adult Safety Forums are planned and led by the county's Elder Vulnerable Adult Abuse Task Force, and we hope to see you there. And I think I turn this over to Dr. McGee.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Patrice McGee, and I have the privilege of serving as the Chief of Aging and Disability Services within Montgomery County's Integrated Department of Health and Human Services. And so, as you've heard, WEAD is being observed tomorrow. June 15th is the actual day, but we have our annual kickoff for our WEAD event tomorrow at the Schweinhart Center. We also are offering a virtual option if you would like to attend. So Adult Protective Services, or APS as we call it. If you know CPS, you know APS. It's the other end of the life cycle. Is the Elder Justice and Protection arm under Aging and Disability Services. I'll take this off the mic because it keeps going to stand. So APS protects the county's most vulnerable against neglect, self-neglect, abuse, and financial exploitation. WEAD is the county's annual kickoff event for year-round elder justice education. So it's an ongoing effort. Our protection effort is a daily collaboration, as you've heard, between Adult Protective Services, law enforcement, fire and rescue, our county and state's attorneys, as well as the Office of Consumer Protection. I want to thank Councilmember Katz and County Executive Elridge for always being champions for older adult issues and protections. And I also want to highlight Councilmember Stewart for introducing Bill 1626, which is the Financial Exploitation Protection Act, which is a timely and needed policy. Financial exploitation continues to rise here in Montgomery County. 33% of the investigations conducted by Adult Protective Services are for financial exploitation. Financial exploitation is the legal, unauthorized, or improper use of older adults' funds, property, or assets for another person's benefit or personal gain. It is theft or financial fraud that deprives an older adult of their resources and independence. So again, I want to invite you to join in the WEAD education event tomorrow at Schweinhart or join us virtually. Look forward to having you there and educating you. Thank you.
And before we read the proclamation, I know that you have a few things to say as well.
All right. Good afternoon. I just wanted to say, and I wanted to thank the members of the County Council, as well as our County Executive, for the fact that the welfare of older adults is a priority in Montgomery County. Ages 65 and above account now for about 18% of our population. That's getting close to 200,000 people, and it brings its own challenges. I work with the state's attorney's office and specifically with the Special Prosecutions Division. We prosecute scams like the Gold Bar scams and financial exploitation of vulnerable adults. We also work closely, and the county executive mentioned this task force. It's the Elder Vulnerable Adult Abuse Task Force, EVAATF for short. And we collaborate with Health and Human Services, Adult Protective Services, Montgomery County Police, the County Attorney's Office, and Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. Despite the fact that we have priorities, we still have challenges in a county that has such a large and diverse group of seniors. We still have to make sure that we address all forms of abuse. That would include neglect, financial crimes, physical abuse, and sexual abuse. One of the difficulties that we find is that only 4% of the seniors will report abuse. And the reason for this, there are several. One is embarrassment. The other might be that the person is emotionally or economically dependent on a person who's actually abusing them. Mental health challenges play a role, as do the fact that many seniors don't know what resources are available to them. An important tool, of course, is WEAD, World Awareness, Elder Awareness, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And we've been doing it for a number of years. It's a great way to kick off the year to make people aware of what's going on. It educates seniors on how to protect themselves against scams. It educates the wider community as to what to look for in terms of red flags for abuse. And it also educates people about resources that are available to them. Of course, this is a year-round job. We are out there in the community all the time, whether it's the police, APS, prosecutors, fire and rescue, educating people. Knowledge and awareness is our best vehicle to protect the senior community, and I want to thank Health and Human Services and the volunteers for putting together WEAD for tomorrow. Thank you.
And would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Kimberly Johnson, and I serve as the Director for the Area Agency on Aging, which falls under the Department of Health and Human Services, where we provide programs and services to help older adults and individuals with disabilities to remain safe in their communities and in their homes.
Thank you. And with that, would you like to read a proclamation? Whereas this year is the 20th anniversary of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which is observed each year globally to provide an opportunity for communities to stand together against the abuse, mistreatment, and neglect of older people, and
Whereas Montgomery County is committed to preventing and responding to acts of abuse against older adults through targeted programs throughout county agencies, as well as through participation in the World Health Organization and the AARP network of age-friendly communities, and with Governor's Longevity Ready Maryland initiative.
whereas according to the World Health Organization, people worldwide are living longer, with every country in the world experiencing growth in both the size and the proportion of the population, and
Whereas in Montgomery County, residents older than 60 made up more than 20% of the county's population, with that number expected to rise to more than 25% by 2030. Whereas Montgomery County has a dedicated elder and vulnerable adult abuse task force, which in 2026 marks 16 years of coordinating with county agencies to organize and host a special safety information events in recognition of World Elder Abuse Day, Awareness Day, with the understanding that educating seniors, their families, and caregivers about abuse is critical to its prevention.
now therefore it be resolved that the County Executive Mark Elrich and the entire Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby join the International Declaration of June 15, 2026, as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, to be observed in Montgomery County on Wednesday, June 17th, and urge all our community members to join Montgomery County's Department of Health and Human Services, State's Attorney's Office, Department of Police, Fire and Rescue Service, Department of Consumer Affairs, Office of the County Attorney, and Department of Recreation in recognizing the contributions older adults make to our county. Together, we will renew our focus on the prevention of and response to acts of abuse against older adults and ensure that Montgomery County remains a place where all residents can thrive to their full potential. It's presented today, and it's signed by County Executive Mark Elrich and the Council President Natalie Finley Gonzalez. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much to Councilmember Katz and the County Executive for this recognition of Elder Abuse Awareness Day. We have a series of public hearings, and we're going to start with Agenda Item 5. It's a public hearing in action on a resolution to approve supplemental appropriation 26-666. Wow, that's a lot of six. To the FY26 operating budget, Montgomery County Government, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services, FY26 Senator Amos Fire Rescue and Ambulance Fund, State 508 grant for $2,121,000. Source of funds, state grant. Action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. There are now registered speakers for this hearing. This public hearing is now closed. We will now move on to the action portion of this item. Is there a motion to approve supplemental appropriation 26-66?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Don Lukey, second by Councilmember Lori Ann Sells. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And it passed unanimously. Agenda Item 6 is a public hearing in action on a resolution to approve supplemental appropriation 26-69 to the FY26 operating budget, Montgomery County Government, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service, general personnel and operating costs for $16,137,000. Source of funds, undesignated fire fund reserves. Action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. This public hearing is now closed. We will now move on to the action portion of this item. Is there a motion to approve supplemental appropriation 26-69? Moved by Councilmember Katz, second by Council Vice President Balcom. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And it passed unanimously. Agenda Item 7 is a public hearing and action on a resolution to approve an amendment to the FY25-30 Capital Improvements Program and special appropriation to the FY26 capital budget, Montgomery County Government, Department of Transportation, resurfacing residential rural roads for $8.2 million. Source of funds, general obligation bonds. Action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. As a reminder of our public hearings, you must stay on your topic. Please. You will I'm looking at you. You will hear a tone where your time is up. And we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have one speaker, Mr. Glenn Orling. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, and glad to be back. I'm representing the Rustic Roads Advisory Committee. We recommend approval of the supplemental appropriation CIP amendment. We have three requests. And a little bit of background on this. First of all, back in this winter, there was discussion about the resurfacing project for both residential and rural roads. And in response to questions that Council Vice President Balcom had raised with DOT noted that they bring resources to all of these roads to bring them into similar condition. DOT points out that resurfacing is funded both in the CIP and the operating budget, and the CIP funding does not represent the full picture. It evaluates every county road pavement on a 2-year cycle as measured by the Pavement Condition Index, or PCI, on a scale that ranges from 0, fully degraded, to 100, which is a newly paved project, a newly paved road. The target goal that DOT has set for both types of roads is 70, and based on the latest PCI data, the latest 2-year biennial survey, residential roads have a score of 67 or 66.8, and rural roads have a score of 67.1, virtually identical. For the purposes of transparency, this is our first request, which we actually made to you back on April 1st, but it wasn't taken up for whatever reason in either T&E or full council, so we'd like to do it here. The first request is actually you amend this PDF, just the project description section, nothing with money, which includes that language. It says the target goal for both residential and rural roads is a score of 70. Based on the latest data, the PCI scores for rural and residential roads are 67.1 and 66.8. We want you to do this for a period of, for basis of transparency so that everybody knows where we are. And in the future, we can continue to look at these numbers. That's our first request. Our second request is that next month, since this CIP amendment only lasts for 2 weeks, And next month, you introduce and act on another CIP amendment for the 27 to 32 CIP, which does exactly the same thing, same text. And that'll last for the 2 years. And the third request is, and this is really for the long-term future, is that you include this information on this PDF every 2 years. Whenever the CIP is updated, we'll also have new data from the latest pavement condition index. And that way the residential and rural constituencies will know where we are, and if we fall behind, we are in a position to actually do something about it. So that's the short of it. Again, my testimony has the paragraph with the brackets and underlines that we'd like you to include. It's also in the letter of April 1st, which is also attached to my testimony. I'll take any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve the amendment and special appropriation? Moved by Council Vice President Balcom, second by Councilmember Glass. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And it passed unanimously. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm sorry, did that include the language?
Yes,
It
that's
did.
amended.
Thank you.
As written in the staff report.
Yes.
So it's clear to you. Is this a public hearing? This is not a work session. Thank you. Moving on. Good try, though. Agenda item 8. I had to move on. I'm sorry, Glenn. You can, please. Agenda item number 8 is a public hearing. As presented in the packet. This is as we always do. There's nothing different here. Agenda item 8 is a public hearing in action on a resolution to approve supplemental appropriation 26-81 to the FY26 operating budget, Montgomery County Government Department of Transportation, snow removal and storm cleanup for $38.9 million, and Department of General Services for $5.4 million. Source of funds, general fund undesignated reserves. Action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. This public hearing is now closed. Now for the action of this item, is there a motion to approve supplemental appropriation 26-81? Moved by Council Vice President Balcom, second by Councilmember Fritzen. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And it passes unanimously. Agenda item 9 is a public hearing on Bill 15-26, taxation, property tax credits, Habitat for Humanity rehabilitation. This bill will create a tax credit for properties owned by Habitat for Humanity with the purpose of rehabilitation and transferring to a new owner in the near future, and generally amend the law regarding property tax credits. A Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee work session is scheduled for July 9, 2026. Those wishing to submit material for the Council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 2nd, 2026. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have one speaker, Mr. Jeffrey D. Please go ahead, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Good to see so many people here for the Habitat property tax bill. Excellent. My name is Jeffrey D. I'm the President and CEO of Habitat for Humanity Metro Maryland. Thank you, Council President Fanny Gonzalez and the other members of the County Council for the opportunity to speak to you today on Bill 1526, which creates a property tax credit of 100% at the county level for properties owned by Habitat for Humanity Metro Maryland, with the purpose of, for those properties that are in the process of development, rehabilitation, and transfer to a private owner in the near future. So first, I'd like to thank Councilmember Fritzen for working with us to sponsor this bill, and to the full council for co-sponsoring it. We're grateful for your support and commitment to creating affordable homeownership opportunities in our community. As all the different materials in the packet provided for today's show, this bill only forgives property taxes during the rehabilitation or new construction on a property that will become an affordable home to a hard-working, lower-income family who is simply asking for a hand up and not a handout in their quest for home ownership. I don't want to make this an either or, but it's important to note that affordable rental properties have long benefited from the pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes, with typical lengths of time being 15 years. Now that's great. We applaud that. But at the same time, I would just point out that there's not an equivalent program for affordable home ownership projects in Montgomery County, or actually most everywhere. We're delighted to see the economic impact study show that the bill would have a positive impact on the county, and also that the racial equity and social justice impact study found that the bill would have a positive impact on racial equity and social justice in the county. So let's talk about a little bit the brass tacks. So we estimate that this property tax credit bill will save us in a typical year between $70,000 to $80,000. Now, some people may not think that number is significant, but I would only say that when you have to fundraise for every penny for projects, or you have to go in front of your board of directors to advocate for a project and make sure everything pencils out, every penny saved makes it that much easier to move a project forward. The more money I can save today means I can build more houses tomorrow. To illustrate the real-world impact of this tax credit, many of you had come to the Allium Place dedication, the groundbreaking. Council Member Jawando, you volunteered on, as others did. So prior to November 22, the county received no property taxes from that 6 acres of land. It was a public benefit, etc. Once we purchased it, we began to pay taxes on it, on the 24 condo unit properties and the 3 single family homes, while the properties owned by our partner doing the rental housing paid no taxes. And I'm done. I'll just say that we paid $16,000 over the period of time, and now that property is generating $55,000 worth of taxes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Please, no clapping. Please don't do it. The public hearing is now closed. We're going to move on to agenda item 10. It's a public hearing on expedited bill 16-26, Consumer Protection Amendments, Financial Exploitation Protection Act. This bill will permit the Office of Consumer Protection to operate a voluntary mediation program. Define the term vulnerable adult under the Consumer Protection Law, prohibit as a deceptive trade practice the use of deception, intimidation, or undue influence to obtain money, property, or services from a vulnerable adult. Prohibit as a deceptive trade practice the use of deception, intimidation, or undue influence to obtain money, property, or services from an individual who's at least 68 years old. Bless you. And generally amend the law regarding consumer protection. A Public Safety Committee work session is scheduled for July 20th, 2026. Those wishing to submit material for the Council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 13, 2026. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have 2 speakers, Mr. Eric Friedman, who I see right in front of me, and Ms. Katrina Emerson Kugel. Where is, there you go. Please come this way. Mr. Friedman, you can please start. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Many years ago, when Montgomery County adopted a new charter, one of the county executives and county council's first priority was to enact a consumer protection law. Unfortunately, there were only 7 council members at that time. That was my best line. Nothing? Okay, sorry. Oh, well, let me mark that off. Today, we are grateful that all 11 council members support a bill and to enhance Chapter 11 of the Consumer Protection Act. Seniors in Montgomery County have devoted their lives to raise and care for their loved ones. It is our responsibility to honor, protect, and safeguard our seniors. It is fundamentally important that we enhance laws that prevent seniors from losing their life savings when they are victimized of scam. We strongly support Bill 1626.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Katrina Emerson Kugel.
Good afternoon, Council President, members of the County Council. My name is Katrina Emerson Kugel, and I'm here on behalf of SEEK, a provider of services to adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDD, and I'm here to support the Financial Exploitation Protection Act. People with IDD are unfortunately common targets of financial exploitation. Although this type of abuse is not very well tracked or studied, in a 2021 study, the U.S. Department of Justice estimated that people with disabilities were victims of violent crime at 4 times the rate of the non-disabled population. One can assume the same is true for financial crimes, and that people with disabilities are disproportionately affected. In our work at SEEK, we have seen firsthand how vulnerable people we support can be to deception and financial pressure. In one case, a brother was exploiting someone we support in our community engagement program, trying to control his Medicaid benefits by wrongly registering as his guardian. In another case, the mother of someone in our supported living program moved into his apartment and tried repeatedly to transfer his money to her account. 2 Project Search graduates also fell victim, one who was dating someone who repeatedly tried to get money from him under false pretenses, and another whose entanglement with someone almost wiped out his entire bank account. Our options are to go to the police, but in that case, the person has to cooperate with the investigation, and shame and intimidation often make this difficult for them to do. The second option is Adult Protective Services, who, by focusing on the most serious violent cases, may not have the resources to pursue financial crimes. The burden has been on community providers like us or DDA's Coordinator of Community Services or CCSs to take action when criminal activity has become evident. By empowering the Office of Consumer Protection to pursue these cases, this bill will create a new pathway to protect people with IDD from becoming victims. And by aligning county law with an existing state law, this bill will make it easier to hold bad actors accountable for their crimes. In addition, the mediation option creates a practical, accessible path to resolve issues before they escalate, which can make a real difference for people who may struggle to navigate more complex systems. We believe that people with disabilities have the right to live lives of their choosing in their community, directing their decisions with independence and authority. We also recognize that those with IDD are more likely to fall victim to financial abuse. We believe this bill will help protect the dignity and safety of people we support and urge the council to support it. Thank you.
Thank you for such a powerful testimony. We appreciate you. This public hearing is now closed. Agenda item 11 is a public hearing on Bill 17-26, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Speed Monitoring Systems Authorized Amendments. This bill will authorize the use of speed monitoring systems within certain school zones, authorize the use of speed monitoring systems on certain highways in the county, and generally amend the law regarding motor vehicles and traffic control. A Transportation and Environment Committee work session will be scheduled for a later date. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on June 26, 2026. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have several speakers. We have Mr. Earl Statter, who's here, Roger Alexander, Tom Drisler in person. So we're going to start with Mr. Statter first.
Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez, Vice President Balcom, members of the County Council. My name is Earl Stoddard. I'm an Assistant Chief Administrative Officer testifying on behalf of County Executive Mark Elrich in support of Bill 17-26. Primarily, this legislation would enact locally state legislation passed in 2025, which permitted placement of speed enforcement cameras on high-risk roadways. For Montgomery County, that would include our High Injury Network, HIN, and it also would include the State Highway Administration's Vulnerable Road User Corridors. As a reminder, the HIN is a segment of our roadways that comprises approximately 3% of our roadways, but contributes to 41% of our serious and fatal injuries, or fatal crashes. They also include roadways such as Veers Mill Road, US 29, McGeorgia Avenue, University Boulevard, Maryland 355, New Hampshire Avenue, Piney Branch Road, and others, many of which are familiar to anyone in this room for the injuries that have occurred on them over the last many years. Let's talk about what this legislation would do and what it wouldn't. First, this is an authorization for the Montgomery County Police Department's Automated Traffic Enforcement Unit to follow its existing protocol for a site selection that includes a state and local permitting process, public notification, and sign placement prior to the placement of units. This legislation would not increase the number of cameras in Montgomery County. While it would expand the number of locations eligible for cameras, it's important to note the county has a total of 76 red light cameras, 38 fixed pole cameras primarily in school zones, 96 portable units, and 6 trailer units. That allocation would not change if this legislation is enacted. Montgomery County Police Department uses crash, speed, and other data to determine the best locations to deploy those cameras, and then periodically redeploys those same cameras based upon changes in the data over time. The next misconception this legislation is simply an attempt to generate more revenue. Firstly, it's critical to note that under the state enabling legislation associated with the high-risk network, any revenue obtained from enforcement on those roadways must be spent on the safety improvements on the high-risk roadways themselves. Unfortunately, the county continues to invest in roadway safety targeted capital improvement projects that will exceed the revenue that we currently generate by automatic traffic enforcement, but also on revenue projections produced should the HIN enforcement be authorized. The final point I wanted to address is the notion that automatic traffic enforcement doesn't improve safety. The National Transportation Traffic Safety Administration maintains a database of domestic and international studies, including for the program in Montgomery County. Independent research in Montgomery County previously has shown that the percentage of vehicles exceeding the speed limit by 10 miles an hour was decreased by 64% at camera locations, 39% at areas adjacent to cameras, and 43% in comparable areas of the county that didn't have traffic enforcement there, meaning that there are broader effects than just at the camera locations themselves. This finding was consistent with similar trends in other parts of the country. For all of these reasons, we encourage passage of Bill 17-26.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Roger Alexander. Oh, is that person here? We can't, he can submit his written testimony then. I only have one more person. So, Mr. Tom Drischler?
Is the mic on? Good. Madam President and council members, I strongly recommend you postpone approval of Bill 1726 pending further hearings because you do not have all the information you need to make an informed decision on this massive expansion of traffic cameras in the county. Here's a brief list of troubling unanswered questions that should give you pause. There are currently 462 speeding cameras and 131 red light cameras operating in the county. Yet, you've had no staff report from the Traffic Division explaining why these 593 cameras are not enough. Exactly how many more cameras will be enough? And who determines how many cameras are needed? And what methodology are they using? When will the camera installations be complete? What is the plan? Why would you authorize potentially hundreds of more cameras when the police have not reported the outcomes from those already in operation? You need cold, hard facts about tickets, revenue, and accidents. How many tickets and how much money did the cameras generate in the last 2 years? How do those statistics compare to the years before the county had traffic cameras? What metrics will be used to evaluate the effectiveness of the cameras in reducing accidents? How frequently will the police be reporting updated accident information to you? How much money goes to the camera contractors? How is the county's share of ticket revenue dispersed among county agencies? If you can't answer any of these reasonable questions, you need to go back to the drawing board. The amount of fines from speed and stoplight cameras as described in the fiscal impact statement accompanying the bill can be calculated at $90 million or more per year. Last month, I sent out an email asking for clarification on these numbers to all county personnel involved in the legislation, but I did not get any replies. The camera tickets are a classic example of taxation by citation. And because all vehicle owners are charged the same level of fines, the tickets are regressive, placing the heaviest financial burden on the working poor. Madam President, on June 3rd, you issued a statement regarding the fiscal year 27 budget that said, we have finally delivered a progressive income tax structure. We have protected the most vulnerable with direct services. We have helped keep costs down for residents struggling in this economy. And yet, with your bill, you and your fellow council members are now going to inflict increased regressive taxation by citation on those same struggling residents as well as everybody else. And all that with no requirements for accountability or transparency from the police whatsoever. Let me end with this quote from the Institute for Justice. When enforcement is driven by revenue, safety takes a backseat and low-income communities are left to pay the price.
I appreciate your testimony. The next two residents to testify virtually, they're not on, so we're going to move on. So this public hearing is now closed. We're going to move on to item 12. It's a public hearing on zoning text amendment 26-08, non-conforming use reinstatement. The ZTA will allow the reinstatement of a non-conforming use under certain conditions. and generally amend the non-conforming use requirements. A Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee work session will be scheduled for a later date. Those wishing to submit material for the Council's consideration should do so by the close of business on June 26, 2026. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public hearing. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have a couple people. First, Mr. Benjamin Berbert from the Planning Department, and I see Ms. Liz Rogers here, and the third person is virtual. So let's start with the Planning Department.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Council President and members of the Council. My name is Ben Berbert, and I am here representing the Montgomery County Planning Board. The Board had a hearing on June 4th, 2026, and recommended 5-0 to recommend supporting the zoning text amendment with some minor modifications, which I will go over today. This ZTA would create a process for reinstating non-conforming uses that have been otherwise deemed abandoned due to inactivity for more than 6 months. And the Board supports this, but just wants to make a few clarifications, mainly to keep the zoning text amendment in line with the existing policies around non-conforming uses. The first change would just be a minor change to the applicability section, adding clarification that the last use of this property should be the non-conforming use. The Board also wants to make sure that as part of the reinstatement process, that the only changes that would be allowed to the nature, character, or intensity of the use are those that would increase compatibility and not otherwise allow those changes. The Board also did consider a climate assessment as required by law as part of the zoning text amendment. Unfortunately, it was not able to make a clear determination whether this would have any positive or negative impacts. This is really an unknown as to how many of these non-conforming uses we have, and depending on the nature and character of the use and the location of the use, it could have a positive or negative impact. For those reasons, it could not make a determination. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Rogers.
Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez and members of the Council. For the record, my name is Elizabeth Rogers with the law firm of Lurch, Early, and Brewer. I'm testifying today in support of ZTA 2608. This ZTA provides needed flexibility for nonconforming uses. The current law only allows nonconforming uses to cease operations for a very short period, just 6 months, after which the nonconforming uses will be deemed abandoned. Many of these nonconforming uses are small businesses. If you look at DPS's website to get a feel for the type of uses that fall into this category, you'll see their veterinary clinics, their neighborhood markets, their antique shops, and even small 2- and 3-unit residential buildings. It's easy to understand how these small business owners may not understand the gravity of what a short pause in their operations could mean for their ability to operate their business in the future. And given the nature of these uses, it's also easy to understand how economic or personal circumstances could arise that may force them to cease operations for more than 6 months. COVID is a really good example of this, as the Council certainly appreciates. Many small businesses struggled during the pandemic. That period of economic uncertainty caused many retail establishments to temporarily close their doors. That temporary closure, while hard enough on a small business owner, could have lasting impacts on a non-conforming use. To give this context, I'd just like to highlight one such example, which is Western Market. It's a neighborhood serving corner market that's located on Western Avenue, just a mile from the Friendship Heights Metro Station. The market has been serving the community for since the 1920s, up until it's closed its door in 2022. The market actually predates the county's first zoning ordinance, and as such, it's located in a single-family residential zone and has been operating as a non-conforming use. But because of this brief closure, after almost a century in operation, under the current ordinance, they're not able to reopen their doors. This zoning text amendment would change that. The owners of the Western Market property, Bill Morris and his family, would welcome the opportunity to breathe new life into this community market through an organic connection with their family farm. Reopening the market would not only provide a convenient place for residents to shop, but it would also restore a piece of the community's shared history and nostalgia. In fact, many memories of Bill's childhood prominently feature this market as he grew up in the neighborhood, and I'm sure that's the case for many residents that still live near it today. Western Market is just one such example of a nonconforming use that could benefit from this ZTA, allowing them to reestablish a use that the community would like to see return. The ZTA provides necessary flexibility for similarly situated nonconforming uses that could very easily find themselves in this exact same situation, to be able to overcome these temporary setbacks and continue to serve the communities in which they are located. We believe the ZTA provides adequate guardrails to ensure that the reestablishment of nonconforming use would not have adverse impacts on the surrounding community through the notice requirements, planning staff's review, DPS review, and ultimately a decision by the hearing examiner. We've read the planning board's transmittal in support of their comments and respectfully request the council's support. Thank you.
Thank you. The virtual resident that we have is Jason Phillips. Mr. Phillips, are you there? We have an additional person on the Zoom, but we're not sure if it's you. If it's you, please unmute yourself. Jason Phillips. Going once, going twice. This public hearing is now closed. I tried. You're my witness. Now, so items 13 and 14 are very interesting ones. So before I start, I'm going to make a couple of remarks, and then we'll take it from there. So back in January, Council Vice President Balcom, alongside Council members Lori Sells and I, introduced a ZTA, zoning text amendment, to impose common sense and much needed protections from data centers. As many of you know, there are no protections in the zoning ordinance, and they're allowed in every single zone, which is wrong, by conditional use. After hearing from many of you in this room after the public hearing and other stakeholders, we announced additional amendments on clean energy, water, and retroactivity. To give the council and community more time to chart a responsible and competitive path towards data centers, the county executive imposed a 6-month moratorium just last Friday on a new data center developments. I welcome that pause. Committee work sessions on the ZTA will begin in early July. I look forward to a careful and thoughtful review along with all of you to have all these much needed protections through the ZTA. In addition to the ZTA, council members have suggested other efforts, including moratoriums and a task force. Those moratoriums are before us today as public hearings, and we're going to get started right now. Felt I had to give you that background. So with that, we have item 13 and 14. Item 13 is a public hearing on expedited bills 19-26, buildings moratorium on permits for data centers established. This bill will establish a temporary moratorium on permits for a data center issued by the Department of Permitting Services and generally amend the laws governing buildings and permitting in the county. An Economic Development Committee work session will be scheduled for a later date. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on June 26, 2026. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you're testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. There's some of you who actually signed up for this moratorium and also expedited bill 24-26. If you have signed up for both, I will announce it and you have 5 minutes. Those of you who only signed up for one, you get 3 minutes, and I am very strict with the time, as you have probably noticed. Please do not clap, do not boo, do not interrupt anyone speaking because it's disrespectful and distracting. With that, I'm going to start with, as you hear your name, please come forward. Chuck McBride. Well, I'm just going to still need to announce it. Chuck McBride, Karen Metches, Carolyn Taylor, Kevin Walton, Theodora Escarato, and Kristen Cook. Everybody who I just mentioned has 5 minutes, and I'm going to start. Mr. Chuck is not here, right? Just confirming. Not here. Okay, so we're going to start with Ms. Karen Metches. And please state your name right on top. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Karen Metches. I'm speaking on behalf of the Climate Coalition, Montgomery County. We are in strong support of a 2-year moratorium. The Montgomery County Climate Coalition, it has 20 organization members dedicated to addressing the urgency of climate change. We want to thank the council members who have introduced bills to address data centers, both the task force and the 2 moratorium bills, and we appreciate the county executive for issuing the pause. But now we need more time to work out the very tough details. We support 2 years to work out these details. There's not a person who hasn't heard the horror stories coming out of Data Center Alley in Virginia. There's no contesting the impacts to the public and the environment, despite the enticing reports of revenue to bolster budgets. But all that glitters is not gold. While 1 or 2 council members have been working diligently, and we really appreciate it, on the Dickerson Terra Energy Atmosphere proposal, the general public has barely become aware of it. Honestly, I canvass during this election cycle, and I've talked with dozens of residents as I go door to door. I've yet to come across anyone who knows that data centers are coming to Montgomery County, and the reaction is one of alarm. Without clear answers, I doubt you'll find anyone happy with you allowing them to be built without better information and assumptions and public disclosure. When ZTA 2601 was introduced, the planning department had 2 weeks to do a climate assessment, and I quote some of their findings. Quote, this assessment distinguishes between impacts that are inherent to data centers as a land use and those that depend on site-specific conditions. Also, for impacts that are well documented in scientific literature, such as energy use, construction-related embodied emissions, and water quantity, the assessment identifies major negative impacts. And finally, where potential impacts depend primarily on location, existing site conditions, or project-specific design considerations, the assessment characterizes impacts as indeterminate. The Planning Board recommended you amend this bill to address energy use, renewable energy, mitigation standards, and water. These take a lot of time to work out to really get them to be effective. And in addition, the Climate Coalition had a long discussion with the Planning Department staff. They had no time to evaluate where it would be appropriate to build them and under what conditions. So how they would affect our master plans and sector plans. They have no plans to do so unless you specifically request it. Given that ZTA 2601 would ostensibly allow data centers in any industrial zone, this portends many impacts to the community, including pricing small businesses out of the market for use of that land. Look at the maps. I tried to upload them, but they were too large, so we did email them to you a while back. Every council district is a potential target. These findings are unacceptable for an industry that portends major impacts to society. Given all this, please merge these 2 bills, work together, impose a moratorium for 2 years, ensure it is applicable to all applicants, including the Dickerson site, which is not a cable communication facility, and let's all take time to figure this out. Instead of pursuing fool's gold, let's preserve our community. It's worth the wait, and it's worth our weight in gold. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Caroline Taylor.
Thank you. I'm Caroline Taylor, speaking on behalf of Montgomery Countryside Alliance. We're grateful for the work of our colleagues, both county, statewide, and national, on this issue of consequence. This hearing record holds some strong and informed testimony from professionals who know a thing or two. Please take heed. At the start, and to be abundantly clear, while we welcome the executive order that pauses permitting actions on data center applications, we request that the legislative branch follow suit with their own moratorium to provide the needed time to finalize ZTA 2601, both standards and operational guidelines. The executive action guides executive branch functions. The council should take hold of their authority to create the unhurried space for an informed, deliberative, collaborative, and transparent process in developing the standards and regulations associated with data centers. The executive's order's timeframe of 6 months is clearly unlikely to afford the council the working room it needs. 6 months in your legislative world, in any of our worlds, frankly, is a blink of an eye. Bill 2426, a complementary action to the executive order, provides the opportunity to put control of the time frame to work on this complex issue in your hands, where, as this is a legislative action, it should rest. And I should note that the federal government has declined to regulate the data center industry, and therefore more falls upon the local jurisdictions to do the work. This discussion is occurring against a frenzied backdrop of election dynamics, budgetary woes, crushing workloads, emerging technologies, industry sales pitches, NDAs, climate change impacts, ratepayer impacts, stressed electrical grid and water resources, and bizarre and troubling conspiracy theories. None of this extraneous noise serves the public good. Sadly, we hear often that we are operating within a climate of broken communication between the governmental branches that serve the public and even between this body's colleagues, and we're hearing, and at times, with the public. If there were ever an issue to mend this torn fabric, this is it. And yet we must center the public good, which is inextricably bound to environmental stewardship. In this instance, given the complexity associated with this land use and the volume of both what is known and that which is currently not, time and full attention is needed. To that end, and hopefully not wishful thinking, we propose that those supporting the two versions of a moratorium come together and work in committee to craft a single bill that not only affords the necessary time to get this right, but establishes clear deliverables with provision to complete earlier if possible. I appreciate the work of Councilmember Balcom and her staff to work on this endeavor. She spoke recently of creating a work plan spreadsheet and the need to divvy up the tasks. Would a task force be useful? I think it's been previously dismissed, but there is merit in considering it. The work? How to address and mitigate ratepayer impacts, grid strain, environmental justice issues, true cost-benefit analysis, climate change goals, noise, vibration, water resources, impact, which includes, by the way, power generation for these facilities which uses water, biological health impacts, and no doubt more. We pledge to roll up our sleeves and get into it as helpful. And please, please afford the time to do so with a legislative moratorium. At least, please consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Kevin Walton.
My name is Kevin Walton, and I represent the Climate Mobilization of Montgomery County. Thank you so much for this opportunity to testify in support of the Data Center Moratorium Bills 1926 and 2426. Our organization over the past year has led a couple of webinars on data centers in the county. They were attended by hundreds of individuals, and honestly, they had the most interest over any other topic that we had presented over the years. I want to thank the county executive for the 6-month moratorium on the permitting of data centers. This was an important first step, but now it is up to you, the county council, to take the next step. 6 months is not long enough to fully develop the regulations that will protect our residents from the many challenges brought by data centers. Some of you are doing a deep dive into the issues, and we appreciate your efforts. We have also been researching these topics. We think we can agree that as we dig deep, we learn about how much is known and not known, and how much more work is needed to understand how to protect our citizens' quality of life and well-being. The concern I would like to address here is noise. Our county noise ordinances are not designed to deal with the challenges from data centers. The ordinances focus on 55 decibel limit at the edge of a property for intermittent noise. But noise from a data center is constant. And how different is that? Well, here's a test that you can try at home with your electric toothbrush. Using the sound app from the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, 55 decibels is what I get when I'm standing 12 feet from my electric toothbrush. Now, while we don't mind the noise for a few minutes while brushing our teeth, what about hearing it for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? So I'm going to give you a moment to imagine that. Your toothbrush whirring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Continuous noise was shown in multiple studies to be associated with sleep disturbances as well as negative cardiovascular, cognitive, and mental health impacts. Multiple press reports have also investigated the negative health impact of data center noise. One reason why data center noise was a problem was that the regulations to limit the noise was not adequate. We need sufficient time to develop good regulations. These complex issues need to be addressed in a serious manner and not rushed to meet some arbitrary timeline. An excellent decision would be to merge these two bills that we've been talking about and to give us enough time to make sure we deal with these issues. But the law does also need to be amended to have specific deliverables to address the multiple issues, and perhaps a task force could be created to identify the deliverables and timing. The zoning amendment ZTA 2601 states that data centers could go in any industrial zone in the county. There are industrial zones in every district, and new industrial zones could be added in the future. Communities who may become a data center neighbor need to know that the county council has looked after their interests. Please pass a merge of these two bills and enact a longer data center moratorium. Our neighbors in Prince George's, Frederick, and Howard counties have enacted such moratoria. Montgomery County residents deserve the same respect from their representatives. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Next, Theodora Scarato. Can you please turn on your mic?
I am the director of the EMF program at Environmental Health Sciences, a national nonprofit working on plastics, pesticides, air pollution, EMFs, and other environmental health exposures. Data centers are a public health issue because they bring together nearly every type of pollution, affecting communities for miles, not just through the air, land, light, noise, water, and heat island effects of the facilities themselves, but also through unchecked life cycle impacts. Data centers are driving up PFAS, forever chemical pollution. Thousands of drinking water wells in North Carolina have already been contaminated with PFAS linked to semiconductor manufacturing, as have streams in our county recently. PFAS also is used in data center cooling and fire suppression systems. Speed should not come before safety. But there's yet another critical issue, and that's EMFs. The voracious energy demands of data centers require unprecedented build-out of new electrical substations and high-voltage power lines, increasing EMF exposure to nearby homes and schools. This is an EMF meter. Last month, I measured the EMF levels near the San Francisco 49ers practice field, which is next to a substation. The team had said it hired a yet unnamed expert who concluded that EMF levels were 400 times below the safe zone and that the issue was a nothing burger. But the EMF measurements were never publicly released. That's trust us, we're the experts. Now, I recorded EMF levels at the playing field fence line above 10 milligauss, including up to 17 near the adjacent youth soccer fields. These levels are well above the 3 and 4 milligauss levels repeatedly associated with childhood leukemia in numerous research studies, well above the levels linked to Alzheimer's and miscarriage, well above the levels that several countries use as their limit for homes and schools. Dr. David Carpenter, who recently retired as director of the Institute for Health and the Environment at the University of Albany, published a review of the peer-reviewed science on power line EMF, and he concluded that industry-funded studies more often found no effects, whereas independent studies more often reported effects. And he concluded that there is, quote, strong evidence linking EMF exposure to cancers beyond leukemia, particularly brain and breast cancer. Dr. Henry Lai's latest analysis found that the majority of peer-reviewed research over the last 4 decades has reported effects, 90% for oxidative stress, 84% for genetic effects, and 92% for neurological effects. Yet the U.S. does not have any federal safety limits for the EMFs emitted by substations and AI-driven transmission lines, none. Now, in the 1990s, EPA's work to develop health protective standards for power line EMFs as well as cell tower radiation was defunded and never completed. But industry-tied groups do set limits. They set limits between 2,000 and 9,200 milligauss. Yet 3 to 4 milligauss is the level repeatedly associated with childhood leukemia. Industry limits are not designed to protect against the effects of short-term exposure, just nerve stimulation. They are not for long-term effects. Why? Because as the tobacco and asbestos industries did for years, they claim cancer causation is not established. Then they cite expert panels, which in many cases were stacked with industry-funded scientists relying on industry-funded research. Hundreds of scientists say that public exposure should be reduced, not increased. You can see the EMF scientist appeals for that. EMF safety is a house of cards. It's a fairy tale. And there's more. A Bloomberg analysis of over 770,000 residential sensors found degraded power quality from harmonic distortion within 20 miles of up to 50 miles of data center clusters. Now that also creates electrical pollution in the home. Before any data center is approved, the public deserves transparency, mitigation for EMF levels, harmonics, air pollution, PFAS, wastewater contaminants, tonal noise, infrasound, light, and e-waste. Until such regulatory safeguards and oversight are in place, a 2-year moratorium is the only defensible course of action. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Kristen Cook.
Yes, hi, good morning, afternoon. My name is Kristen Cook, and I'm with 350 Montgomery County, a grassroots group working to solve our climate crisis. Thank you for allowing me to speak today in support of a 2-year moratorium on data centers in our county. The public has soured on data centers, and the backlash against them has snowballed in recent months, prompting more than 100 proposed moratoriums at the local, county, state, and national level, and for good reason. Communities across the country are experiencing real-time harm to their health. Here are a few examples to serve as a cautionary tale. In eastern Oregon, after an Amazon data center was built, a significant spike in nitrates were found in the groundwater in the lower Umatilla Basin. Nitrates can negatively impact newborns and put people at risk for cancer. A class action lawsuit against Amazon for this nitrate pollution resulted in a $20.5 million settlement this April. In Virginia's Data Center Alley, where there are more than 500 data centers, an increase in air pollution is attributable to their round-the-clock, energy-intensive data center operations and to their backup diesel generators. A reminder that air pollution is linked to asthma, cancer, and neurological disorders. But air isn't their only pollution problem. As one Virginia resident describes the persistent sounds as an internal organ vibration that feels 100% unnatural. In New York, there are 28 hyperscale data centers currently planned, and if they fire up, they would expand the state's energy use by roughly a third. In New York, much like Maryland, is already struggling to follow through on its climate plans and goals to make deep emissions cuts. Powering data center development with gas risks entrenching dirty energy and its harms, and is completely incompatible with our county's goal to reduce greenhouse gases emissions by 100% by 2035. Meanwhile, here in Montgomery County, it is the potential depletion and degradation of our water source that is the most immediate concern. Again, with good reason. Our watershed has an ongoing public health and environmental emergencies and is now number one on the American Most Endangered Rivers list. The bottom line is that our watershed cannot sustain any more harm. No amount of tax revenue can warrant degrading, depleting our water. It's simply short-term gain along with long-term pain. In conclusion, the pollution footprint from data centers is causing significant measurable harm to millions of people and places. It will take at least a 2-year moratorium to develop the strict standards needed from Montgomery County to avoid these harms, and it will require transparent water accounting, binding emission limits, equitable citing policies, and most importantly, the political will to prioritize people over money.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call on the next set of speakers. Thank you for coming today. Susan Gallagher, Angie McCarthy, Doug Siegling, Cheryl Gannon, Paula Bienefeld, Lamar Mutz, Nadine Mason-Mort. You can sit anywhere. Please sit anywhere you wish. And we will start with Ms. Susan Gallagher. Every single person here has 5 minutes. Please state your name right on top. Please
Yes.
go ahead.
Hi, my name is Susan Gallagher, And I want to say that I'm 100% in support of a 2-year moratorium, and I want to talk about why. But first, let me address the people who say that unless we permit data centers, they'll just move across the river, and then we'll miss out on the revenue and the jobs that they would otherwise create. But the reality is that the Dickerson complex would actually generate very few permanent jobs, and the tax revenue it would produce is pretty small compared to the county's overall budget, at most around $40 or $50 million a year, which is less than 1% of the county's roughly $7 billion annual budget. We can get that same tax revenue and far more long-term jobs from another employer, like a health tech company instead. So the real question isn't whether the project would generate revenue. It clearly would. The question is whether the revenue justifies the long-term impacts on our electric grid, climate goals, water resources, and quality of life. And we don't need a study necessarily to show what those impacts are. We know that the Dickerson complex would require about 300 megawatts of around-the-clock electricity demand, which is enough to power hundreds of thousands of homes. That's going to put a huge additional strain on Maryland's electric grid and will require expensive upgrades to the grid and the construction of more gas-fired power plants, and as a result, much higher PEPCO bills. But the most important reason for a 2-year moratorium is the damage that data centers do to the climate and to our local water resources. We already know that the Dickerson project would draw up to 2 million gallons of water every day from the Potomac River and generate climate pollution derived from gas-fired power plants that's comparable to adding roughly 200,000 additional gas-powered cars across the grid. Also, data centers use diesel backup generators that pollute the air nearby. They create noise and light pollution. So you might say, well, we can just require them to use 100% green energy. But that's impossible right now because data centers need around-the-clock energy. Solar and wind are intermittent. They're not 24/7. And today's batteries can only power a hyperscale data center for about 2 hours. So right now, it's technologically impossible for data centers to have real-time clean energy matching for more than 2/3 of their electricity consumption. The remaining 1/3 has to be powered by fossil fuels, which emits tons and tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. So here's the reason we need to wait at least 2 years. In about 2 or 3 years, there's going to be new green technology available and commercially scalable, like advanced geothermal, small modular nuclear reactors, fuel cell, and better long-term battery storage. So if we wait, those technologies can actually get us to the goal of 100% green power. If we don't wait, we'll just need to keep building more gas-fired plants in the meantime. You can't reverse that investment, which means Maryland will be burning fossil fuel for decades. We all need to stand up against this push by the big tech companies whose primary goal is profits, and we need to do our part to conserve what's left of our planet for the next generation. Thank you.
Great timing. Thank you. Ms. McCarthy.
Good afternoon, Honorable County Council. I'm Angie McCarthy, the Clean Energy Campaign Manager for Nature Forward, which is DC metro area's oldest independent environmental organization. I'm also the co-chair of Marylanders for Data Center Reform, and my colleagues submitted written comments on both the 6-month and two-year moratoria. I will speak to both pieces of legislation as well. We commend Council members Glass, Jawando, and Mink for prioritizing data center development pauses. We acknowledge that data centers are a necessary utility in today's technological landscape, but we are extremely concerned with their unchecked growth and believe that moratoria alone are insufficient. It is imperative that Montgomery County takes immediate action to meet these challenges head-on. Moratoriums or pauses can only be part of the movement to meet the many challenges pertaining to water and energy use, public health impacts, and environmental justice. Without a clear roadmap for permanent reform, a moratorium simply delays the very harms that it is meant to prevent. Any pause in development must be paired with concrete, binding plan to enact lasting protections for Montgomery County residents. To that end, we look forward to continuing to work with Council President Fanny Gonzalez, Council Vice President Balcom, and Councilmember Sales on the ZTA and the accompanying operational bill. We believe that these pieces of legislation are part of a more permanent solution and hope this council will take the opportunity to pass rigorous legislation before the end of this term. To address expedited Bill 1926, this bill simply puts off addressing data center issues in the county to a future, likely less opportune moment without any concrete plan to turn the temporary pause into permanent reform. A 6-month moratorium would end merely weeks after the inauguration of the new county council. That means that rather than giving the council time to develop comprehensive data center policy as intended, the moratorium would force a brand new council to race against the clock to pass data center legislation before the moratorium expires. Therefore, we urge the County Council to vote unfavorably on Bill 1926E. To address expedited Bill 2426, we urge the Council to amend the bill to clearly and concretely lay out what permanent action will be taken during the 2-year moratorium period to ensure that Montgomery County's environment and residents are protected in years 3, 4, and beyond. That may mean pairing this bill with the current ZTA, or those amendments could include comprehensive regulations such as zoning restrictions to limit data centers to industrial zones outside of prime watersheds, clean energy mandates to increase our supply of 100% new clean energy, diesel generator prohibition with an emphasis on battery storage and load shifting technologies, transparency and public participation to include reporting requirements and to address phantom load projections, water use regulation to address temperatures, PFAS, and quantity, labor requirements and community benefit provisions, and last but not least, noise ordinance updates. Regardless of the vehicle for this legislation, there must be regulation on top of the 2-year moratorium if we are to address any of the public health and environmental justice concerns that we have brought before Council previously. Therefore, we ask that the Council support this moratorium only with comprehensive amendments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, Doug Siegling.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Doug Siglin. I'm representing the Chesapeake Climate Action Network's Action Fund here today. That's a nonprofit civic organization based here in Montgomery County with 3,000 supporters in the county. I personally have been doing national and international environmental policy for more than 40 years and have spent the last several months trying to understand everything there is to know about energy use in data centers. I'm going to go off script here. I have a written statement. I hope you'll get a chance to read it. I know it's going to be a long afternoon. CCAN is a member of the Climate Coalition, and we support the idea that there should be a moratorium. It is the coalition's view that there should be a pause because you need to hear additional facts and best practices. We agree with our colleagues. It'd be good to pause both permitting and, more importantly, data center conditional approval process to give the next county executive time to initiate a full discussion of best practices to help you make the right decisions. Having said that, I want to spend just a couple of moments talking about clean energy. With respect to my friend on my right, it is entirely possible today to power a data center with 100% clean energy. And I want to tell you how. Many of you have agreed that that's something that we want to strive for. But it's really a definitional question, and very rarely do people actually talk about what clean energy today might in fact mean. Here's what we think, and we believe that clean energy, meaning no additional emissions, has 4 essential elements. Number 1, it has to be carbon-free. And you know what that is. That's solar, it's wind, it's nuclear, it's hydro. It has to be carbon-free. Number 2, it has to be strictly additional. It can't be energy that's already being generated someplace that's just used up by the data center, making it unavailable for you and me. It has to be new. That means that the data center has to invest in new clean energy being brought online. It's entirely possible to do, but it has to be new. Number 3, it has to be matched hour by hour with the use of the data center. That is to say that if the data center is operating at 12 noon, solar energy might match it perfectly. If it's operating on a winter night where there's no solar, the wind isn't blowing, it has to be something else entirely, because buying solar credits doesn't cover the emissions that happen when you generate electricity at night using gas or some other resource. So it has to be matched hour by hour. And fourth, it has to be from our own grid region, the PJM. That's the only way that Montgomery County residents are going to be able to get benefits from the clean energy. So there's 4 elements. And what I urge you to look out for is anybody who says we're going to be 100% clean energy, but they don't have the 4 elements. There's a lot of greenwashing going on. There's proposals out there to say, oh yeah, we're 100% clean energy, but we're going to buy solar credits to cover everything. That's not good enough. Or we're going to buy it from Texas or Arizona or Utah or Iowa. That's not good enough. Look for the 4 elements. That's what are going to assure you that there's no emissions and that the data center here doesn't further contribute to climate change. And we all know how important that is. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Cheryl Gannon.
Good afternoon, Council President and members of the Council. My name is Cheryl Gannon, and thank you for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of the Montgomery County Civic Federation. Our member associations work hard every day to help residents understand and respond to land use, transportation, environmental, infrastructure, and public safety decisions that affect their neighborhoods. Again and again, our communities find themselves struggling to evaluate major proposals only after those proposals are already well advanced. That is why the Civic Federation strongly supports a meaningful pause in data center permitting and urges the Council to enact Expedited Bill 2426, establishing a 2-year moratorium. We thank Councilmember Joando for introducing this important bill. A significant pause is needed to deal with very complex issues, some of which are under the purview of state or federal regulators. We need this 2-year moratorium to get this right for the future of the county. We are unable to support Bill 1926 for 2 reasons. 6 months is not long enough to develop a complete regulatory framework, engage affected communities, and ensure the county residents are protected from costs and negative impacts. One example is that the cost allocations of electrical infrastructure and upgrades requires coordination with state and federal regulators. The county must coordinate with these agencies, evaluate technical studies, develop zoning and environmental standards, determine fiscal and utility impacts, create an acceptable tax rate for these sites, which may also require state action. Second, the 6-month bill carves out an exception for the Dickerson site, which is already proceeding, even though we don't have a regulatory structure here for data centers. The site is proceeding in the planning department process under a structure designed for cable communications, which is not a data center. We need to first establish a structure for data centers before proceeding. We also ask the Council to ask the Planning Board to halt consideration of the Dickerson site until a regulatory structure is in place. This is not a position against technology or economic development. Data centers support essential services, and with appropriate regulations and a tax structure, they may provide tax revenues and opportunities to reuse previously developed industrial land. We ask for time to determine where and at what scale and what enforceable conditions are appropriate. The newest hyperscale and artificial intelligence data centers are not ordinary commercial buildings. They are large industrial facilities whose demands for electricity, water, cooling, backup power, and infrastructure can affect not only the immediate community, but residents throughout Montgomery County. The proposed Dickerson site makes these concerns especially urgent. Publicly available materials describe a potential electrical capacity of 360 megawatts, together with substations, backup generators, battery storage, warehouses, and cooling infrastructure near the Potomac River, Agricultural Reserve, and C&O Canal. A project of this scale could contribute to regional transmission and generation needs, utility costs, emergency response demands, environmental impacts, and infrastructure decisions affecting residents far beyond the site itself. It could also establish a precedent for how data centers are reviewed elsewhere in the county. The county still lacks publicly available, independently verified technical analyses, and the process should begin with an answer to the very fundamental question of how much data center capacity cumulatively is the county looking to provide for over time, or will a regulatory structure create a by right process for future growth? Our written statement outlines a long list of questions and issues that must be addressed in our view. They're too numerous to read, but I'll summarize. How much electricity would the campus use at full build out, and who will shoulder the costs? It's not enough to simply state that we will require data centers to pay their own costs. That result will require working with federal and state regulators on regional transmission issues. It cannot be done by county council fiat. What is the effective water usage from the Potomac River? How many diesel generators will be installed, and what's the effect on air quality? What fire or other risks will be created by a very large battery energy storage facility? Does the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue have the specialized equipment, training, and staffing necessary to respond? How will impact taxes be assessed on these sites, if at all? What will be the noise and light pollution impacts on communities? What would be the net fiscal benefit to the county after infrastructure costs, emergency services, environmental monitoring, and other public expenses are considered? These questions matter to civic associations because they reflect a broader concern that communities often face. Major projects are presented as an economic opportunity before the full public costs, trade-offs, and long-term effects have been disclosed. Montgomery County should not approve a new class of intensive industrial development first and develop the governing rules afterwards. The unique demands of data centers require clear identification and standards. We urge the council to enact Bill 2426. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Paula Bienenfeld.
Thanks. I'm Dr. Paula Bienenfeld. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on both of these bills, requiring a moratorium before any approval of the Atmosphere Data Center complex. Also, I was an environmental protection specialist in the private sector. I oppose the construction and operation of the data center. I'm concerned, though, about the process by which it's come to this. The council members and County Executive Elridge first knew about the proposed data center in 2023, years ago, and we, the residents, have only just found out about it recently in mid-2026. Clearly, there's a serious problem with the way this process has been set up, and of course, the lack of government transparency that allows this to happen. Regarding construction and operation of the data center, identified as a cable communication system, the data center itself, and public utility structure, the battery storage unit, it's located along the Potomac River near the historic C&O Canal and the C&O Canal towpath, likely in their viewshed. The property, per the report from the planning department, quote, contains numerous streams, ponds, and wetlands, unquote. Both of these will require an environmental review by federal agencies, and to date, we have not seen those environmental assessments, or really any environmental assessments. The applicant requested approval for 758 acres, but stated at the time when the report was done in 2024 that they plan to use 292 acres of the entire area. The planning department report states that, quote, there will be no noise generated by the uses other than backup generators during power outages, unquote. But those of us who have generators attached to our single-family homes know that generators must be tested regularly, usually once a week. Loudoun County, known as Data Center Alley, has more data centers than anywhere else in the world. I suggest using Loudoun County as a pilot and gather data from their experience. Consider working with the Virginia Data Center Reform Coalition. So in addition, as others have said, in addition to the noise, there's the issues of water usage, electric grid, and degradation of the agricultural reserve. The reserve should be just that, reserved for agriculture. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Lamar Mutt.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, Council members. My name is Lamar Mutz, Council Representative with the Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, and represent thousands of skilled union carpenters across the region. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today regarding expedited bills 1926 and 2426, which would establish moratoriums on data centers permitting in Montgomery County. Our organization respectfully opposes these moratoriums. Data center construction creates thousands of hours of work for skilled tradespeople. These are family-sustaining jobs that allow workers to build careers, support their families, purchase homes, and contribute to local communities. When projects are delayed or canceled, those opportunities disappear, and the economic impact is felt directly by the workers and their families. We recognize that data centers raise important questions about land use, energy consumption, infrastructure, environment impacts, and long-term planning. Those issues deserve thoughtful discussion and responsible policy making. However, a moratorium delays projects and creates uncertainty for businesses considering investment in Montgomery County, putting jobs and economic opportunities at risk. As union carpenters, we support development done right with good wages, safe working conditions, apprenticeships, opportunities, and strong labor standards that protect workers. Rather than freezing the projects, we encourage the council to establish clear standards for future development. Concerns about energy use, environmental impacts, workforce participation, community benefits, and infrastructure can be addressed through policy and project requirements without halting investments. Montgomery County has long been a leader in innovation and economic development. Data centers are an increasingly important part of the modern economy, supporting technologies and services that residents, businesses, and government rely on every single day. The question is whether Montgomery County will benefit from this growth or whether investment, jobs, and tax revenue will move somewhere else. If development is put on hold, companies will look to other locations, taking economic opportunities and construction jobs with them. We should work to keep those investments and careers here. Our members want the opportunity to build these projects and earn family-sustaining wages while supporting the region's future economy. Moratoriums create uncertainty for workers, contractors, and businesses without resolving the underlying issue. We respectfully ask the council to reject bills 1926 and 2426. Thank you for your time, consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have Nadine Mazon-Mort.
Hi, I'm Nadine Mazzoni-Mort. I've been living in Ashton Sandy Spring for about 47 years. First, I want to thank everyone for being here and focusing on this very important topic. I want to thank Councilperson Evan Glass for his leadership in coming out first for a moratorium idea, but also for the most important part is the study group, and also for Councilman Giwando, whose office has also been very helpful. Thank you very much for the 2-year. I think we should combine the two and have a 2.5-year moratorium with a study group. What do you think? But the picture I'm showing you here, because one picture is worth 1,000 words, is I'm lucky enough to live on the Ligon Farm. That's 100 acres. I live on a little tiny sliver back here behind these trees. And just this week, and this is how it's going to affect all of us, just this week a Long and Foster sign went up at the bottom of the property on Route 108. There are 6 beautiful working farms in Ashton that support farmers and families, but a lot of people don't know that. And this property, which is almost 12 acres, is for sale for $5 million. And right on the Zillow ad, it says here, suitable for data center site. So people are real estate agents, and the property was bought for a song, the 12 acres, a couple of years ago by an investor from Howard County. They are cashing in on our lack of rulings and programming for data centers. So this is an emergency. If we need you to please step up and make some decisions right now. We really appreciate everybody. But this is a real ad, and it says on here, in the description, you can work with the county council to change the zoning. You could work with those guys. So I'm working with you and all my neighbors and friends so that we don't wake up one morning in Ashton or some of our beautiful historic places. And as you know, Ashton and Sandy Spring are historically Black communities that go back from the beginning of our country. So we hope that you will take this into consideration quickly. Thank you very much.
Great end for this panel. That's why we need to pass the ZTA. Okay, moving on to the next one. Stephen Shapiro, Angela Franco, Marcia Thryer-Nass, Jeffrey Farrell, Carmel Lindsay Broder, Darren Unger, Gordy Branner. The first 4 speakers have 5 minutes. Everybody else has 3. I'm going to start with Mr. Stephen Shapiro. If you can, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Council President, Council members. My name is Steve Shapiro, and I'm the co-founder of Praxis Energy. I'm an attorney and a mediator. I've spent 35 years resolving some of the most difficult energy and environmental disputes in this country, including the original PJM capacity markets, over 100 FERC proceedings, Superfund cleanups on rivers like the Housatonic. Every person in this room wants the same thing: a Montgomery County that is stronger, more resilient, and better off a generation from now. The only disagreement is, how do we get there? And I'm here to offer a path. Here's what we're asking for today. Whatever you decide about the moratorium, consider allowing the county to convene a genuine multi-stakeholder community benefits process during the moratorium period. If that process produces a binding comprehensive agreement that addresses ratepayer protection, clean energy commitments, workforce investment, environmental security, you retain the full discretion to lift the moratorium for that project. The moratorium becomes a bridge to good governance rather than a wall against it. We are prepared to help build that foundation. We have the methodology, the team, and the relationships to do it. And we stand ready to work with any developer who is serious about being a real neighbor. So the vision: what if Montgomery County demanded and negotiated everything that's truly possible in this development process? Delegate Chakordian's Utility Relief Act already points the way. Here's what a fully negotiated agreement could deliver: clean energy at the platinum standard, 100% of load matched by battery storage, virtual power plants drawing from rooftops across the community, and a demand response that turns the facility into a grid asset. Ratepayers held harmless, the community holding equity in the generation. A workforce pipeline where Montgomery College and the University of Maryland are running apprenticeships and certifications in AI infrastructure and clean energy. Every construction job paying prevailing wages, enforced by law. A binding Montgomery County Public School Fund, not a donation, a legal obligation written into the permit supporting AI literacy and mentoring for those students who are living in the shadow of these facilities. Closed-loop water recycling, watershed protections, and escrow accounts for property values, environmental mitigation that cannot be negotiated away at the permit counter, and a guaranteed property and payroll taxes, not projections in a study, but minimums enforceable in law, building this county's fiscal base for a generation. And if you zoom out for a minute, imagine that the I-270 corridor, already one of the great innovative corridors in this country, is becoming the national model for the regenerative technology economy. Clean energy companies, cybersecurity firms, advanced manufacturing, all anchored by infrastructure that pays its way and earns its place. Every element of this is technically achievable and legally implementable. The only question is whether Montgomery County will demand it. What I've just described is not only a better Dickinson, it is a different relationship between this county and its future. When communities and developers build a genuine agreement before a shovel turns, something larger than a data center gets built. Community resilience, residents and institutions become partners in what gets built, investing in its success rather than fighting its expansion. Long-term enterprise value, developments with genuine community backing don't face the litigation, the opposition, and the reputational cost that has derailed projects across this region. Innovation and talent retention, the companies, researchers, and workforce Montgomery County has spent decades cultivating, will choose to build their futures here when this place stands for doing things right. This is the prosperity this moment makes possible. It does not happen by accident. It happens because the council built the governance structure to demand it. So let me close with this. If our world is going to require more data, and it will, then we have an obligation to figure out how to do this right. Not just how to permit it faster, but how to do it right. Montgomery County can lead Maryland in answering that question. Maryland can lead the region. The governance architecture to make that happen is available to you right now. We are not here to tell you how to vote. We're here to make sure that whatever you decide, the people of this county win, and then when the right governance structure is in
Thank you.
place, all sides win.
Thank you so much. Next, Angela Franco.
Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez, Vice President Balcom, and members of the County Council. My name is Angela Franco, and I'm the President and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in opposition to Bills 1926 and 2426. While the Chamber appreciates the intent of these bills, we oppose each of these proposals, and we respectfully ask that you reject them as well. We recognize the difficult challenge this Council faces regarding data center development. We also appreciate the thoughtfulness that you all have put into the development of data centers and looking at the long view and well-being of the community. For that reason, we continue to support the Zoning Text Amendment 2601 as the most appropriate path forward for regulating data center development in Montgomery County. It is critical both economically and fiscally that instead of moratoriums, Montgomery County establishes a regulatory framework that allows it to remain competitive in attracting responsible data center development. Data center provides significant and stable tax revenue, strengthen the property tax base through substantial capital investment, and support income tax revenues through both construction employment and a small number of long-term operational jobs. Beyond their fiscal contributions, data centers are foundational to the innovation economy. They provide the critical digital infrastructure that supports high-growth sectors such as cybersecurity, life sciences, artificial intelligence, and advanced computing. Limiting their development will constrain the growth and participation of this industry, which are vital to Montgomery County's economic future. Again, imposing a moratorium rather than establishing a clear, consistent, and effective regulatory framework, which is happening through CTA 2601, is, in our estimate, the better route to take in terms of policy. Regarding the Dickerson project, the Chamber is in support and thinks it represents a unique and strategic opportunity for the county. We think the site, which is zoned for industrial use, is appropriate for reuse and well suited for data center development. For these reasons, the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce opposes Bill 1926 and Bill 2426 and urges the Council to reject these measures and work together to approve CTA 2601 and responsible data center development opportunities in Montgomery County. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next, Marcia Thryer-Nass.
Hello, my name is Marcia Nass, and I live in Dickerson. I believe there should be a 2-year moratorium for data centers so that appropriate regulations can be drafted. Regulations should include building standards, environmental protections, and disclosure requirements. Also, health impacts are still coming out, so a 2-year moratorium gives us time to evaluate new health information and ways to mitigate harmful effects. I refer to an email sent by Chuck McBride, the CEO of Atmosphere, to Carolyn Taylor and Stephen Finley. McBride states, "We are the best data center for the environment. Our water use is 0 gallons for half a year. We don't have noise issues and we don't have power rate issues." Despite these representations, Atmosphere has failed to provide data backing up their claims. You, the Council, have no idea whether they are accurate or not because evidence of their environmental outcomes is not publicly available. When con men are caught in a lie, they threaten, they call people names. McBride states in his email to Carolyn Stephen, "Are you any progress?" He asks if our friends at SCA and MCA are funded by the Chinese Communist Party. Really? Senator Joe McCarthy in the 1950s accused people of being communists without any basis. Hundreds of people had their career destroyed due to allegations of communism and subversion when there were no facts to support it. This is recognized as a dark period in our country's history. McBride's statements are outrageous and offensive. How can there be an objective exchange of information and discussion on how to make data centers more environmentally acceptable if this is the level of discussion? Accusing community leaders who want backup information for claims to be communist does not resolve any issues, and the council needs to determine whether they want to be in league with Atmosphere. We need a 2-year moratorium because we need the time to define the standards. Let's have time to come up with standards that are reasonable and proper. Let's respect the residents who will be impacted by a data center. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jeffrey Farrell.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Farrell, Senior Vice President and Owner's Representative on behalf of Terra Energy. Thanks for the opportunity to let me speak today. I want to start by saying something that we sincerely mean. We share all of the concerns heard today, and that you have energy consumption, water withdrawal, discharge, noise, vibration, view shed, proximity to residential and agricultural properties, forest retention, preservation of the ag reserve, to name a few. These are exactly the questions that we've been asking ourselves for the last 4 years since we acquired the property. We don't come here to push back on those concerns. We come here because we believe genuinely that we are addressing them. And because we want to be your partner and make sure that every project, not just ours, is held to an accountable standard. That's why I'm here in opposition of the proposed moratorium bills and in support of allowing the zoning text amendment to proceed and to move forward to do exactly what it was designed to do. A building permit moratorium is already in place by executive order. The ZTA is actively being developed by this council. These are the right mechanisms and we support them. And we're asking today to keep it simple. Let the process work. The question before council is not just about our project or any single project. It's about what regulatory framework Montgomery County puts in place for any data center on any site going forward. That framework is a ZTA, and we believe it deserves to be done right. What I can speak to is what a responsible process looks like, because we've been living through it in the Dickerson site for the last 4 years. We did not arrive with a finished plan asking for your blessing. We came here at the beginning, sitting down with environmental advocacy groups, neighbors, community stakeholders, and we shaped this project around concerns from day one. We did not react retroactively. We have been concerned from day one. And here's what that looks like in practice. The development area of our project sits more than 2,000 feet from the nearest property line. Not from a house, that's from the property line. Every interconnection cost for both the energy storage system, data centers is paid fully by the developers, all on-site and off-site infrastructure. Residents will never subsidize private infrastructure at all. Grid impacts and cost allocations were studied years before we asked for approval, because that's the right way to do it. Regarding forest management in the ag reserve, the county is requiring of Terra Energy 237 acres of forest preservation. We are offering 390, all of it. Held in permanent Category 1 easements to protect the agricultural reserve, local streams, and the surrounding viewshed. Included in that acreage is 103 acres of banked forest land, a tree bank that directly supports denser residential and commercial development in appropriate areas that county leadership and the community wants to encourage. On energy, we will be sharing very shortly a plan for the site's energy consumption, designed so that this development does not compromise the county's own clean energy goals. A 500 megawatt battery project is on the site. It's rated among the region's most beneficial, and the battery project is not connected to or will not support the data center project. It specifically supports stability and pricing during peak demand hours that will benefit all ratepayers. Finally, on water withdrawal and discharge, our client recently amended their water application for withdrawal and discharge, which unfortunately has not been updated on the MDE site, although we understand it will be soon. Without going into all those details, I will share a few things about the system here today. Hybrid system, and it was specifically designed with a few goals that we heard repeatedly from the community. Use as little as possible, return as much as possible, and ensure the water that is returned has no impact on the ecology of the Potomac River and the C&O Canal. We believe when those documents are reviewed not only by council but by the public, that we have exceeded those standards. These components, the data center, the battery energy storage, the forest conservation, all of these efforts have been master planned. They are individual projects, but they are reviewed, analyzed together to ensure the entire site complies with all regulatory frameworks, not only local, but state and federal. A broader building permit moratorium puts all that integrated work at risk, not just the data center piece. We're ready to be your partner in Montgomery County and be a national model for responsible, well-regulated development on these facilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Carmel Lindsay Broder.
Good afternoon, members of the Montgomery County Council. I'm a Montgomery County resident. I have lived here for all 18 years of my life. I'm here today in support of a 6-month moratorium on data centers, though to be truthful, that is the smallest amount of time reasonable to put a pause on permitting data centers here in MoCo. We cannot afford a data center here in Maryland, especially not one in the way imagined like the center in Dickerson, point blank, period. Data centers have already proven to be a massive strain on the local ecosystem wherever they are put into place. As most people know, when a data center is fully up and running, it releases a loud, humming noise. These noises can get up to 50 decibels, and those noises never stop. They are 24/7, 365, as the data center pumps water into the cooling systems. It is proven that the noise pollution that these data centers put out disrupts the natural biological patterns of wildlife in areas with high noise pollution. That kind of noise would wreak havoc on the delicate ecosystems of the Potomac River and the Chesapeake Bay. Disrupted breeding cycles, fewer eggs laid, and fewer births. It's a chain reaction that would ripple down into our beloved Chesapeake Bay, and it would alter the way of life for Marylanders, people who rely on the Chesapeake Bay for their livelihoods. And that's just the kind of noise that data centers put out. AI data centers are known to be harmful to water supplies of the communities they are placed in, from loss of water pressure in kitchens and bathrooms to water coming out black or brown and completely unusable. Data centers function by sucking water out of our rivers or streams and aquifers and using this water for cooling. Most of the water used this way is evaporated off, and it simply disappears back into the atmosphere. Whatever isn't evaporated is filled with huge amounts of chemical pollution. This is a problem. According to the Interstate Commission on the Potomac River, we are seeing record water lows. We have never had this little water at this point in time, and we are only going into the hottest months of the year now. Now, there's companies that want to siphon hundreds of thousands of gallons of water a day from that very river, the same river that supplies 78% of drinking water to the DC metro area. We cannot let a corporation rob the people of the DMV and Montgomery County of their right to fresh and clean drinking water. These AI data centers also produce a truly insane amount of air pollution. There's a joint study done by the Harvard School of Public Health and the Piedmont Environmental Council on a data center right nearby in Loudoun County, Virginia. They estimated $53 to $99 million cost in health damages associated with air pollution alone.
Thank you. Everyone else in person gets 3 minutes because you only sign up for one. Just a reminder. Next, Darren Unger.
All right. Thank you very much, President Fanny Gonzalez, Vice President Balcom, all county council members. My name is Darian Unger. I'm a Silver Spring resident, a professor at Howard University, and chair of the Montgomery County Sierra Club. I actually am going to be addressing both, but I will be doing it within 3 minutes, so no worries there. I and many of our colleagues here have testified here so many times and about so many issues, but data centers are likely to be among the most important and long-lasting of all the issues that you are going to be legislating. So we really, really want you to get this right. Please do not underestimate the changes coming our way. The changes that you can help shape to be either positive or devastating, depending on what you do. And having met with many of you, I am really glad that most of you are really detail-oriented policy wonks because we're going to need you. Data centers might help save the world if AI helps us develop fusion, clean energy, new medical cures. But the data centers planned for Dickerson are more likely to be just another cog in the Amazon Web Services or Kalshi marketing wheels. And moreover, an enormous electricity price hiking, water stealing, pollution emitting energy hog. Of course, given both time and thought, you have the ability to ensure that any data centers that get built in Montgomery County are sustainable. You can ensure that Montgomery County data centers not just buy, but generate their own equivalent in new, local, renewable energy. That Montgomery County data centers don't raise everyone else's electric rates by clogging transmission and distribution. That Montgomery County data centers don't or actually help fund our county services. You can do all of that given time and thought. So please, give yourself the time to think and to plan. That's why the Sierra Club and its thousands of members support both proposed moratoria so that data centers don't sneak into the county before you get a chance to ensure that they are built right. So Google, Amazon, SpaceX, and their thinly veiled data center developers are reaping such enormous financial windfalls that they are willing to build data centers at almost any price. Make them pay. Make them create and fund new, local, clean energy generation. Give yourself the time and opportunity to negotiate well, to develop the rules we'll need to keep them responsible and actually sustainable. Any county officials with the backbone to make tough demands of data center developers should have no fear of driving them away. They're unfortunately not going anywhere. Give yourself the time with these moratoria proposals. Give us all a clean future and a better ZTA and rules about the data centers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Bordy Grant.
Here. Gordy Burney with the Taxpayers League. Good afternoon. Taxpayers want more commercial employers to offset our property tax burdens at the residential level and create jobs. But moratoriums get to a different result. One in 6 months, the other in 2 years. No consensus, no new jobs, higher taxes, and a bigger gap with our neighboring county competitors. What does this message send to those that we're trying to recruit to come to our county and provide jobs? Please consider the Taxpayers League as a member of a Citizens Advisory Committee for the new Economic Development Corporation Strategic Plan. Data centers can fix our anti-business reputation. There was a time when I had hair, lots of hair. I was finishing undergraduate work in accounting and economics. Several of my computer projects were due, and I routinely brought big boxes of punch cards to the university data center to run my models at night. One warm night in May, students were in the streets protesting the Vietnam War, and some with plans to damage the data center showed up while I was taking a break. Maybe it helped that I was a member of the wrestling team, but it all worked out. Years later, a student by the name of Mark Andreessen built the first internet browser in that very same data center and founded Netscape. My destiny was much more humble. I was a data center auditor for Marriott and a designer of accounting systems. Data centers have continued to evolve beyond both of us and are now integral to our knowledge economy. Modern data centers solve water, electricity, and environmental issues, and will develop our workforce. After construction, data centers run lights out and provide few permanent jobs, but jobs in construction and building trades grow to maintain them, provide career opportunities for our students. Why not ask hyperscalers in a competitive request for information how they would use on-site power generation, closed-loop water cooling systems to solve issues at Dickerson? It's an ideal site, just 1 to 2 milliseconds from the Ashburn Internet Hub, which handles 35% of all of our internet traffic in the country. Ask how hyperscalers could team with the proposed Institute of Health Computing, our local universities, MCPS, to grow tomorrow's leaders. Or how they could modernize our 9/11 call center with predictive analytics, transportation monitoring, incinerator operations, energy recovery, and greenhouse gas emission controls. Our data centers must generate their own power. And there's a silver lining. Why? We import 40% of the power that we consume in this state at astronomical rates, thanks in no small part to a political cabal that favors unreliable renewable energy over natural gas and nuclear power. Like the newest data centers in Gainesville, Virginia, our data centers could generate their own power and provide additional grid power to support the demands of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming today. I'm going to call on the next panel. Gareth Owen, Jennifer Muscato, John Holland, Sharon Brown, Giancarlo Ramirez. We're going to start with Gareth Owen. Everybody is going to have 3 minutes. You can sit anywhere, anywhere. Is Ms. Owen, Gareth, any of you? No? Is that person not here? Gareth Owen? Okay. Jennifer Muscato? Okay, can you please start? Turn on the mic in front of you, please. On the other side. There you go. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Muscato. I live on the border of Brookville and Olney. I'm a full-time working mom of 2. I've never come to anything like this, which shows how important I feel about this. Really excited to see fellow residents being on the side. You already know I wrote pen on a piece of paper, so I'm obviously an anti-AI girl. Really encouraged to see so many people on the same side. AI is projected to have consumed 82.4 billion gallons of water in 2025 alone. That's equal to a city of 9 million people running their taps for 5 months straight. 50 operational data centers are in Maryland right now. That's about 3,000 megawatts of electricity that could power 4 million homes. That's equal to about 4 Montgomery counties. Some of the arguments that I've heard, for data centers, and obviously for a 2-year moratorium at least, creating jobs. Yes, data centers do create jobs at first in the construction phase, but when it comes to actual permanent jobs that data centers create, it's very little. It's like 20 to 50 jobs. I'm from New York, and that was one of the arguments that they proposed there, that the governor proposed there. It's just not real. And actually, in my home county where I'm from in New York, they just passed a 1-year moratorium on data centers. It obviously, like what it's going to be doing to the grid is very upsetting. We are in a drought. Our electricity bills are already super high. They're only getting worse. I'm not sure what we're really talking about here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, John Holland.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm a long-term resident of the county and pleased to participate in our democracy this way. I'm very interested in the social implications of technology. The reason for these data centers, these new data centers, is mainly what is called generative AI, which refers to systems that can produce things that resemble human expression, such as images, music, videos, computer code, and writing, whether that is law briefs, screenplays, college essays, or whatever. This is what drives ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, and so forth. Recently, I saw an idea mentioned by Cory Doctorow. When thinking about a technology, don't just think about what it does. Think about how it does it, who it does it to, and who it does it for. Let's apply that to generative AI. What it does is pretty remarkable. The how it does it apparently involves prodigious amounts of computing power. Quantities of computing power hard for anyone to understand, applied massively, enable generative AI. Others are enumerating the negative impacts of computing at this scale. So there's a little about what it does and how it does it. How about who it does it to and who it does it for? It produces things that resemble human expression. Part of who it does it to is the people who are able to express themselves skillfully and do so for art or money or both. Visual artists, writers, musicians, actors, even computer programmers. All these people find their skills commodified, cheapened, possibly their jobs or careers made obsolete. Why should anyone pay an artist anymore? Why put up with these often difficult so-called content creators? People in these fields are having generative AI done to them. As AI takes over things, we are all having it done to us. Think of the last time you spoke with a chatbot that couldn't help you from a large corporation. What about who it does it for? I think the real target audience is the people who employ creative human beings and who strive to maximize their control over them and minimize the compensation they give them. These people always want to make workers replaceable by making the jobs as mindless as possible. Their enemies are the people who have real human skills they can't do themselves. The Hollywood screenwriters who were organized in a union and went on strike about this are one good example. If ChatGPT or Claude can write your next sitcom for a fraction of the cost of having skilled, educated humans do it, why, that sounds great. The business side of Hollywood would love for AI to do it for them. Human beings are so troublesome by comparison. A more sinister example of who it does it for is the use of these technologies in high-speed military decision-making about who to kill and what to blow up. The so-called Project Maven of the Department of Defense, or is it war, is making the world into the future symbolically depicted in the Terminator movies. I just read about totally autonomous killing machines that are being used against Russia by Ukraine. I see I'm out of time. The official motto of our county is Garde bien, which is French for guard well.
Thank you, sir.
We should guard against the encroach of this technology.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Next, Sharon Brown.
Hi, my name is Sharon Brown, and I'm the founder and executive director of the not-for-profit Black Enterprise Resource Center. It's a Maryland-based not-for-profit and responsible for economic development. That's what we care about. Long-term sustainability and strengthening our community. I'm also a service-disabled veteran who has tinnitus. I'm here in support of expediting a moratorium of 2 years on the Bill 1926, which would establish a temporary moratorium on permits for new data centers while Montgomery County conducts a really comprehensive review of the potential impacts on residents, infrastructure, public health, and the environment. Adding 2 years and not 6 months is my point. So let me be clear, I'm not opposed to technology, innovation, or economic development. Data centers are a critical component of the modern digital economy. However, responsible leadership requires us to take a responsible move towards as we move forward. I'm just trying to get through this. I only got a couple of minutes. Data centers require significant amounts of electricity, cooling, as everybody has mentioned. One area deserving particular attention is environmental noise. Large-scale data centers often rely on industrial cooling systems, and we've mentioned that as well. History teaches us that many technologies and industry practices initially considered safe only for significant public health environmental consequences emerged years or decades afterwards. From lead gasoline and asbestos to PFAS, which somebody mentioned earlier, PFAS chemicals, and other environmental exposures, communities have repeatedly demonstrated the importance of rigorous, independent study before widespread development. While data centers are not being compared with these examples, they illustrate why precaution, transparency, and thorough evaluation are prudent public policy. Particular attention should be paid to vulnerable populations, including children, infants, pregnant women, seniors, and individuals with existing health conditions, while scientific research regarding the long-term effects of continuous noise. Thank you for
your time. One more time, Giancarlo Ramirez, going once, going twice. Thank you for your time. Then next person is Greg Davis, Jomar Luid, Nancy Wilkinson. Greg Davis, that's you. Okay. You all have 3 minutes. If you can please start and turn on your mic.
Madam President, members of the County Council, my name is Greg Davis. I am a 60-year resident of Montgomery County, currently living in Montgomery Village. I'm also a business agent with Steamfitters Local 602, representing over 6,700 members across the DMV region, including 355 who live here in Montgomery County. I'm speaking today in support of data centers and would support a 6-month moratorium. 6 months would be plenty of time to address concerns. I'm against a 2-year moratorium on data centers. Data is growing at an exponential rate. The average person creates and consumes far more data each day than most people realize. Humanity now generates more than 400 million terabytes of data every day. That is a 4 with 18 zeros behind it. That equals 40 to 80 gigabytes per person each day. Americans are slightly above average. Creating an estimated 50 to 100 gigabytes of data a day and consuming more than 80 to 100 gigabytes per person each day. Data centers have been around for 40 years. The larger data centers have been around for 20 years. Make no mistakes, data centers are here to stay. Data is the new lifeblood of the world. As a nation, we cannot afford to push these facilities overseas or allow other countries to surpass us in artificial intelligence and digital infrastructure. If our data capacity were located abroad and disrupted by global geopolitical crisis, think Strait of Hormuz, the impact on the economy and our daily lives could be devastating. I am sure you have heard a lot of information about data centers, some positive and some negative. Much of the negative information out there is incorrect, outdated, misinformed, or simply fabricated. I ask you to consider the facts carefully. Data centers are not a monster to be feared or defeated. Data center developers and owners can work with the county to be good neighbors and responsible stewards of the environment. Montgomery County can ill afford to pass up on the opportunities that data centers provide. They can bring significant tax revenue that will help fund essential county services, including education, roads, fire, rescue, police, social service, environmental programs, and other public needs. That revenue would help to make the company more affordable for residents. In Loudoun County, data center tax revenue funds the county's entire operating budget. Data centers also create good-paying, middle-class jobs, not only in construction, but in the service, retrofitting, operations, and long-term maintenance. These are not just temporary construction jobs. They are careers that help my members of Local 602 and future members build better lives for themselves and their families. I would ask how many people here have been to an actual operating data center. I believe seeing one firsthand would answer many questions and ease many concerns. My colleagues look forward to working with you to dispel these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jamar Lloyd.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jomar Lloyd. I'm the Maryland organizer with Food and Water Watch, representing around 16,000 members in Montgomery County. I don't want to repeat too much of what has already been said, but what I will say is we appreciate the 6-month moratorium that was signed last Friday, but we know that 6 months is simply not enough. I wish this was a joke, but my best friend plans her hairstyles out 6 months in advance. And that is a very small decision to make, you know. And so to do something as big as build a data center, it's easy to build, but it's hard to get rid of, you know. So we need this 2 years. We need to study the impacts of this noise pollution, of water usage, of energy rates. We all have seen how energy rates have risen over the past couple of years. My mom opens up, you know, her BG&E bill and sighs a lot of the time. And this is because of data centers in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, not even in Maryland. So we definitely need to take the time to really study the impacts. Of course, we do want clean energy to power data centers if they are to come, but we know that isn't enough. That isn't addressing water usage. That isn't addressing the noise pollution. And of course, there are the constraints of if we have the, you know, the battery storage and so on and so forth to power these data centers. So yeah, I'm not gonna use up all of my time, but yeah, we need a 2-year moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Nancy Wilkinson.
Hello, and thank you for letting me present my opinions on the data centers to the council. The urgent case against data centers is clear. The AI data center boom poses major environmental and societal disruptions. A moratorium on permits and construction of new data centers in Montgomery County is required until clear regulations are in place. The response of Montgomery County Council members should be guided by its climate action plan and its implementation arm, Thrive Montgomery. The climate action plan seeks near-term actions to eliminate greenhouse gas gases by 2035. Yet the fact that big tech and fossil fuel interests are pushing for more coal, gas, and nuclear plants completely upends that goal. And Thrive lays out our land use vision that does not include data centers. For the future, any Montgomery County data center development must protect people and the environment. It must deliver just, equitable, and sustainable benefits broadly, not just to the wealthy. For example, because of residents' fear about noise, power, and water, Monterey Park, California, an ethnic minority community, passed the nation's first permanent ban on data centers. Many centers nationwide are being located without regard to social and environmental justice consideration. Furthermore, most have non-disclosure agreements which make transparency impossible. There is no reason data center growth is inevitable. The breathtaking dangers to our scarce water and energy resources are shouting to us to stop and think about such unregulated actions. In addition to greenhouse gases, powering them with fossil fuels spews toxic nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and particulate matter. In addition, the 24-hour sound reverberations is now found to present health conditions not seen before. After close examination, it is yet to be shown whether data centers improve the finances of localities siting them. State tax incentives and exemptions on sales and use taxes to encourage data center growth cost millions to the local ratepayers while only benefiting the few. A moratorium of at least 2 years to give us time to develop safeguards and regulations must be part of the Council's legislation on data centers. And a final note, a coming together of the two bills that have been presented that both have good instrumental parts would be a great way for the Council to work together and to improve the CTA.
Thank you very much. We're going to move forward with our virtual session for this particular item. I hear that we only have 3 of the people who signed up. We're going to start with Ms. Esther Wells. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez, Vice President Balcom, Council members, and members of the community. My name is Esther Wells, and I am a lifelong resident of Montgomery County. Exactly 168 years ago today, on June 16, 1858, Abraham Lincoln declared, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." While he spoke about a nation in crisis, that truth, rooted even earlier in Matthew chapter 12, verse 25, applies directly to where we are today. Right now, Montgomery County is acting as a house divided against its own state. I am here in strong opposition to Expedited Bill 19-26 and Expedited Bill 24-26. These proposals would impose a sweeping moratorium ranging from 6 months to 2 years on building and grading permits for data centers. Let me be clear, a multi-year pause is not thoughtful governance. It is a waste of time that signals a lack of leadership. We already have examples from neighboring jurisdictions. We can see what works, what fails, and we can adopt better policies now. Delaying for 2 years does not make us smarter, it makes us less competitive. And competitiveness matters, especially now. Montgomery County is facing serious fiscal pressure. We cannot strengthen our financial position by passing legislation that ties the hands of Montgomery County's Economic Development Corporation and weakens our ability to compete for private sector investment. This bill do exactly that. They also directly conflict with the long-term strategy of the Maryland General Assembly. The state has been clear. Our future depends on growing lighthouse industries, biohealth, cybersecurity, aerospace, defense, and quantum computing. To support that vision, the state passed the Decade Act to accelerate investment and streamline decision-making, and it passed the Critical Infrastructure Streamlining Act of 2024 to fast-track the infrastructure that powers those industries, including data center support systems. And this point matters. Every single one of Montgomery County's 35 state delegates and senators voted unanimously in favor of that streamlining act. They understood a basic reality. Modern economic survival depends on high data infrastructure. These moratoriums broadly halt permitting with no clear carve-out for smaller scale or institutional data centers. That means we are not just stopping large projects, we are potentially blocking infrastructure that supports hospitals, research institutions, and secure government operations. Montgomery County is home to NIH, FDA, and NIST, some of the most important federal institutions in the country. These organizations, along with the defense contractors and healthcare systems like Adventist Health, rely on secure, compliant environments that often require regional proximity to ensure speed, reliability, and security. By cutting off local capacity, we create risk, data vulnerability, higher latency, and reduced competitiveness in retaining and attracting federal presence. We are also the third largest life science hub in the nation. Our biotech companies depend on high-performance computing for genomic sequencing, clinical trials, and advanced analytics. If we refuse to support that infrastructure here, those companies will not wait. They will go elsewhere. And that leads to a critical question. What happens when surrounding states, especially Virginia, or other jurisdictions in the PJM grid prioritize their own residents and corporations? We will become dependent on external markets for critical infrastructure. Our companies will face higher costs, reduced access, and many will relocate. That is not economic development. That is economic self-sabotage. Supporters argue these bills are about environmental concerns, but the Maryland General Assembly advanced infrastructure streamlining with full knowledge of our state's aggressive climate policies. Even the Maryland Office of People's Counsel has made clear the issue is not whether data centers should exist. The issue is ensuring they pay their fair share of grid costs, not imposing blanket bans that choke off local growth. A house divided cannot stand, and right now, Montgomery County is choosing division over alignment, hesitation over leadership, and decline over competitiveness. You cannot expect businesses, especially in the life sciences, cybersecurity, and advanced computing, to wait while Montgomery County puts itself on pause. They will not wait, they will not pause, they will go elsewhere. And when they do, they will take the jobs, tax base, and long-term opportunities with them. Make no mistake, a 6-month moratorium sends a signal, a 2-year moratorium sends a warning, and together they will tell the market that Montgomery County is closed for business when it matters. Vote no on Expedited Bill 19-26 and 24-26. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that the next person we have on, she's not there, Tina Karsberg, so we're going to move on to Mr. Steve Finlin. He also has 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Hi. My name is Stephen Finley. I'm testifying today on behalf of Sugarloaf Citizens Association, an organization based in Dickerson, Maryland, the proposed site of the Atmosphere Hyperscale Data Center project. First, we'd like to thank the county executive for his moratorium announcement last Friday. Very timely, very helpful. Second, thanks to council members Evan Glass and Will Jawando for bringing us all here today with their proposals. Third, we applaud council members who have joined Evan and Will in supporting a moratorium, and we thank other council members who have gotten down to the hard work already of drafting a zoning ordinance and regulations to govern data center proposals. It is no exaggeration to say that this is one of the most consequential zoning and development issues to face this council and Montgomery County in many years. And so we urge the council today to join in the growing recognition that the complexity of this issue simply demands more information, more time, more transparency, expert input, and careful consideration that was initially contemplated just a few months ago. Despite its good intentions and much community support evident today, we have concluded that the council is currently at a disadvantage in drafting regulations. The truth is that most council members and their staffs, as well as the majority of county residents, are just getting started on the steep learning curve of data center challenges: environmental, economic, energy supply, water use, etc. It's now abundantly clear that many concerning data center risks have yet to be fully explained or addressed. For that reason, the council needs to join the county executive and slow the data center freight train down. As we're all aware, such a posture is evolving in dozens of communities across the county, including in Maryland. So what's the right path? 6 months, 2 years, 1 year? Heard about that? Have heard about this all day? How about we don't actually know? We have concluded at SCA that putting a definitive time frame on a moratorium is not the best path forward. The council should instead craft a compromise bill that imposes a moratorium until the council completes and the county executive signs into law a data center zoning ordinance and companion bill with a comprehensive regulatory framework. Please take the time needed, as others have said. The companies involved may be in a hurry. We citizens are not, and the council should not be either. However, that said, if the council chooses or legally must assign a time frame to the moratorium, we support a period of not less than 1 year from enactment, combined with a provision to extend the moratorium if the council's task is incomplete at the 1 year mark. A definition of what would trigger such an extension should be in the moratorium legislation. We further recommend the moratorium bill state very clearly that all county agency processing of any data center proposal be suspended immediately until the council has completed its work on the ZTA and companion legislation and both have become law. No approvals, no permits, no exemptions, period. Related, we oppose any grandfathering in of existing proposals and permits, including those dating back to 2024 submitted by Terra Innovations/Terra Energy. The arduous work ahead includes full transparency, again, as many have called for, from the companies and meaningful public engagement. We appreciate the council's commitment to both. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify today and especially virtually. I know that's not ideal, and consideration of our views. Thank you.
Thank you, and virtual is totally fine. Next, Madison Matthews. Go ahead, please. You have 3 minutes.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Madison. I'm speaking on behalf of Sunrise, an organization who fights for environmental justice. I was born and raised in Montgomery County, and my family has lived on these lands for generations. We were brought here during slavery and continue to live here through this day to live and fight for a better future. I come today on behalf of those who aren't able to share their voice and on behalf of freedom fighters who have shared their voice and have paved the way before me. I come on behalf of those who are not alive yet, our future children and grandchildren, whose drinking water and clean air is going to diminish as a result of this data center. I come on behalf of those who know we cannot put profit over people. While a 2-year moratorium is an okay start, we are fully in favor of a complete ban on data centers in Montgomery County. Putting these data centers in Montgomery County is putting profit over people, and it will hurt us. And by us, I do mean all of us in this room, as well as our future children. There is no way our fresh drinking water will run through these data processing centers and come out just as clean as it was before, and the evidence shows it. Have you taken the time to see what's happening in Memphis, Tennessee, or Mansfield, Georgia? These are communities that live near large data centers. Their clean water is being used at a faster rate than it's being replenished, and their clean water is running out. People have to buy bottled water at the store because there's very little coming from their taps. While these data centers, not only will our clean water diminish, but the water running through these dirty machines and dumped back into the Potomac is not water that we want or deserve to drink. In terms of public health, the pollution from gas turbines in Memphis, Tennessee, and Mansfield, Georgia, that keep data centers running is severely worsening respiratory issues in the area. Reports from Memphis and Mansfield show a peak in nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide in the air, which is severely worsening health conditions like asthma. At the proposed renewable energy rate, we will be significantly increasing the amount of nitrogen dioxide and monoxide in our air. And if it's not 100% renewable energy in Montgomery County, we do not want it. Not only will this data center increase the toxicity in our air, it'll make our electric bills go up and completely deplete our quality of drinking water. Please stand up for citizens of Montgomery County and do not let them put this data center in our community. support a ban on data centers in our community, everyone in this room will suffer as a result of the Dickerson Data Center, and we all deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. Just confirming with staff. That's it. We don't have any more speakers virtually for this particular item, correct?
No.
Oh, we do. Can you please state your name?
My name is William Sheehan.
Are you for, I think you're for the next one. Which bill do you signed up for, sir?
I signed up for this session and I signed up to discuss.
Okay, you are, I see you now. You are on the next item. So don't go anywhere, please. We're not ready for you yet, but thank you. Stay tuned. All right, so for this item that we were on, the public hearing is now closed. Now we're going to move to item 14, which is Expedited Bill 24-26, Buildings, Building Permits, Data Center Moratorium. This bill will define data centers, establish a temporary moratorium on the issuance of building permits for a data center, and generally amend the law regarding data centers. An Economic Development Committee work session will be scheduled for a later date. Those wishing to submit material for the Council's consideration should do so by the close of business on June 26, 2026. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you're testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. So for this one, we're going to start with Ethan Lucas, Adrian Momin, Allison Erickson, Bailey Condre, Ellen Gordon. Each one of you has 3 minutes. And we'll start with Ethan Lucas. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Ethan Lucas. I am a Montgomery County resident and active member of Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Gaithersburg, a city I have called home for all 20 years of my life. Over the past 2 years, I have had the honor of working with so many beautiful faith communities across this county, state, and region through my work as program associate at Interfaith Power and Light DMV. I am here to support all efforts to pause data center development here, to slow down, and to attend to the needs and concerns of our most impacted neighbors. I am proud to live in a county that is a true leader in climate action and environmental stewardship. We have one of the biggest local building energy performance standards programs in the country and are blessed to have friends at the Montgomery County Green Bank advancing clean energy across our communities. We cannot let this good work be undone by the development of data centers. The Dickerson proposal promises to extract millions of gallons of water a day from our beloved Potomac River, pollute our air with dirty diesel generators, increase our already sky-high energy prices, and triple the county's current carbon pollution in the process. That is untenable and unacceptable. My Christian faith teaches me that God's creation is not a commodity to be plundered and sold to the highest bidder, but a garden we have a sacred obligation to tend. I believe that clean air, clean water, and a healthy environment is not a privilege, but a collective sacred right. The climate crisis is an existential threat to our way of life and to so many creatures and beings on this planet. The lust of corporate profit and prospect of property tax revenue cannot come before the health, well-being, and the prerogative of the residents of this county and the futures of my generation. We will be the first to experience the full consequences of a climate ravaged by human greed. We call for the council to not just pass the lengthiest moratorium possible, but to ensure the voices of our most vulnerable communities and not corporate interests are at the center of all conversations about data center development and regulation. We know better, so we should do better. And we don't need AI to tell us how to do that. We are guided by our ancient sacred traditions, real wisdom about living well in community and caring for each other and the land and water we share. So I proudly join thousands of faithful folks across this county and region to urge the council to heed the real wisdom of this moral call as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Adrian Momin. Can you please turn on your mic? There you go. And get it to you. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Adrienne Momin. I'm a 25-year homeowner, resident of Montgomery County. I'd like to offer some facts, some research findings, and some questions and some conjectures. In the original conditional use permit approval, the hearing examiner found that a data center meets the definition of a cable communication system. In my opinion, this constitutes a prejudicial loophole of unknown implications. The county's hearing examiner will make the final decision on the conditional use permit, which, Mr. Glass, something that you sent me yesterday, educated me about, so thank you for that. Why is a single nameless individual imbued with this power? Are planning board meetings and these public sessions simply a dog and pony show with no real effect on the outcome? A few historical facts. In February 2021, when a polar vortex came to Port Washington, Wisconsin, and people lost their power and water in below freezing temperatures, some froze to death without power, yet the data centers kept running through the storm. May 2026, data center construction floods the town of Mason, West Virginia. Currently, the data center, which I believe is Amazon, is offering buyouts to people whose homes got ruined beyond repair. Harvard biostatistician Michael Cork ran the numbers on a single Loudoun County facility, finding that the fine particulate matter and air emissions could cause up to $90 million in health damages annually. A report by Caltech and the University of California, Riverside estimates that data center air pollution will contribute to 1,300 premature deaths every year in the United States by 2030, disproportionately affecting low-income communities who live closest to these facilities. On top of these deaths, the same data center pollution is projected to cause approximately 600,000 asthma symptom cases annually, exceeding 1/3 of all asthma deaths in America. The total public health burden is estimated at more than $20 billion per year in healthcare costs, lost wages, and missed school days. $20 billion a year paid by sick Americans, so tech billionaires can build more data centers and reap billions in tax benefits. The 2-year moratorium does not go far enough, and we need a complete ban on these facilities. In closing, I offer this Native American proverb: when the last tree is cut down, the last fish is eaten, and the last stream poisoned, you will realize that you cannot eat money. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Allison Erickson.
Thank you. My name is Allison Erickson. I'm a resident of Gaithersburg, and I'm here today in support of the 2-year moratorium and in changing the permitting for the data centers. I urge this council to give themselves the time to study and consider this issue carefully. I've been hearing from folks who support the data centers that, there will be tax revenue, there will be more money for services, but I feel that those people are not considering the strain that the data centers impose on those same services. The fire and emergency services in Loudoun County have unexpectedly had to become experts on managing emergencies and fires in data centers. And I don't think that's something that they had hired people in advance knowing they would have to do. I also want to consider the strain on our environment, on the county's climate goals, and on our energy services. And I've heard some folks up here today saying that, other areas of our region are already bringing in the data centers, and we're going to get the negative impacts anyway. And this is a classic tragedy of the commons. Just because someone else is taking advantage does not give us an excuse to do the same. We need to do better by our own communities than that. I've also heard people saying that Montgomery County will be unable to compete in this economy. But I would like to see us compete. I would like us to compete to have the cleanest air in the region, to compete to conserve the most water, and to protect our environment. I think those are just as valuable areas to compete in. As some of you may know, I'm currently running for office, and as a result, I've been talking to voters, and this is a huge issue for them. I'm not campaigning, but I'm saying I've talked to hundreds of voters in this county, and this is a number one issue that they mention, is their concern for the data centers coming in and their opposition to them. And I know many of you are also talking to voters now, and I really urge you to listen to them and to their concerns about what impact these centers will have on the county and on people's personal abilities to afford to live in Montgomery County if costs are raised higher than they are now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bailey Conray.
Hi, I'm Bailey Condry. I'm a resident of the county. I'm here today to testify in support of Expedited Bill 2426. But having heard Mr. Stephen Findley of the Sugarloaf Citizens Association, I think he raises some valid points. This is about biology, chemistry, hydrology, and economics. What we do in Montgomery County affects the health of the river from the main stem all the way to the mouth of the bay. The river just recently suffered the largest raw sewage outbreak in the history of the nation. The Potomac is at a 130-year flow low. So we need to determine how this massive infusion of raw sewage overlaid with significantly reduced water flow affects the long-term health of the fisheries that people depend upon for food and their livelihoods. Full remediation efforts must be completed to obtain a complete picture of the downside risks that have been created for all of these fisheries. Drinkable water and edible food cannot be made by AI. And I am not tech averse. I understand that there has to be a balance. The many food sources harvested from the Potomac drainage depend upon clean water. The crops that are raised, the animals that are husbanded, all depend upon the same. Why then would we rush to add another large source of water consumption and toxic pollution to an economic engine that is already creating jobs and food for the region and the economy? The main stem of the Potomac to Lookout Point, which is where the Potomac joins the Chesapeake, generates millions in sales from shellfish and finfish. The blue crab, the oyster. The economic value of these existing markets is in the billions of dollars. The fishery, and this is a new one, the fishery related to the invasive blue catfish. It's evolved from an ecological menace to a success story for the region. The dockside value of this product is $1.5 million to $2.5 million, and the broader regional benefit to restaurants is anywhere from 10 to 15 million. So when we look at data centers, their depletion and pollution of water resources with PFAS and chlorine, you have to ask yourself, where do we place our priorities? Upon some future amorphous promise or what we currently have? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Ellen Gordon.
I'm here to request that you vote to adopt a 2-year moratorium. I'll get started by saying I want to affirm that I am an unpaid community activist and have never been contacted by or taken a dime from the Chinese Communist Party. The issues surrounding data centers are incredibly complex, and at a minimum, the county needs adequate time to ensure comprehensive regulation that addresses all those concerns, and 6 months is not enough. The hyperscale data center industry has proven not to be honest or transparent, so well-crafted regulations that cover every potentially harmful aspect are vital. I'm going to submit in writing because I have a lot of questions and I know I'm going to get cut off, so when the buzzer goes off, I'll just stop asking them. Will the hyperscale Dickerson data centers cause a heat island effect? How far will the low bass rumble infrasound carry in the Egg Reserve where there are far fewer built features than, say, in Ashburn? How will that noise affect the experience of users of the C&O Canal National Park?
We know that chronic exposure imposes a level of stress on people. What impact does it have on livestock and on the ecosystems? What's the real story on water usage? The applicant has applied for a 2 million gallons per day permit from MDE, claims that their use will be far less. So I anticipate that they'll hopefully submit a new application with the actual honest amount of water. How much water will they contaminate and need to dispose of? Per their application, they want to put that contaminated water on tanker trucks to be driven over the roads that our taxes pay for, greatly increasing truck traffic on our rural roads and risking potential spills anywhere along the route. And for it then to be treated at a WSSC facility where we, the taxpayers, would bear the cost of cleaning it up. And are the contaminants in there something that WSSC even has the capability to remove? Will you require a traffic study for these trucks? How will groundwater be protected from the construction and operations of this facility? Groundwater being our sole source of residence in the ag reserve for drinking, for farms to irrigate, for livestock to drink. What extra steps will be required to ensure it does not get polluted? How will people and ecosystems be affected by the diesel generators that the site will almost certainly end up with as backup power? And I don't think you have the ability to control that. I think Governor Moore made that apparent in 2025. They claim to require, supposedly applied for 300 megawatts to power the data centers, and that number is likely low as it encompasses only what's needed to power the facility, likely not what's needed to power the pumps that will extract the water from the Potomac, unless that's in their application. And speaking of the Potomac, how will the state decide whether people get water to drink or data centers get water to operate or the fish in the Potomac get enough water to survive when we have severe drought years? If they are required to bring their own renewable energy, how does that really work? Do we get a nuke plant on the river in Dickerson? Do they plaster the ag reserve with solar panels or some other farmland? And
Thank you very much. I'm going to call on the next panel. Jack Seltner, John Heiser, Prabhu Selvam, Robert Ayton, Sandy Rosenblatt, Virginia Quesada, Charles Davis. Each person gets 3 minutes, and we'll start with Jack Seltner. Is that you? Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Jack Zeltner. I'm a resident of Wheaton Silver Spring. I'm also a member of Montgomery County Democratic Socialists of America. I personally support an outright ban for AI data centers in the county, but I'm testifying in support of the 2-year moratorium with the understanding that that is the most aggressive policy that has been recommended so far. There have been many people who have spoken very eloquently to the long list of environmental and economic and racial justice concerns here. So I just want to briefly add 2 points that might not have been introduced into the conversation. One has been, but MoCo DSA has been doing extensive canvassing ahead of the Democratic primary. I personally have had the opportunity to knock on over 1,000 doors. And I will say, no matter where I'm at, whether it's like Gaithersburg or Rockville or Washington Grove or Tacoma Park or Silver Spring, there are many different unique local issues that voters want to talk about. But something that I find unites them all is oppositions to data centers here. And I use that in my closer for my pitch. And they do not have nuanced or pragmatic opinions in the conversations I have. They want a policy that is very simple to understand for them. I think an outright ban is that, and a moratorium is one that they can easily get behind and that they can trust that they understand that it's being implemented correctly. And the one last point that I would want to add to this conversation is really the moral and ethical implications of AI technologies at all. A lot of the conversation has been around the environmental and economic impact, but a lot of these technologies clearly have nefarious purposes. And we don't really know who the clients of these AI data centers are going to be and if this infrastructure is something that we can support as part of the culture here. So if the U.S. Army is looking to pick targets abroad to bomb hospitals or elementary schools, will those calculations take place in a Montgomery County data center? If an AI chatbot facilitates a teenager harming themselves, will that originate in a data center that's placed in Montgomery County? If Amazon comes up with an algorithm to determine who is likely to be a union organizer or agitator to help them organize people at a warehouse, will that algorithm be operating and then sending termination letters out of Montgomery County data center? And so I really wish we would expand the conversation and talk about what this means long term and, what we're willing to be complicit in as we're considering the economic investments for our county. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, John Heiser. Is that person here? Going once, going twice. Mr. John. Okay. Next, Mr. Prabhu. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Council President Fanny Gonzalez and Vice President Balcom and the entire council. Let's find the courage to say no. In recent months, we've heard a series of well-intentioned proposals, including industrial zoning limits, a task force, a 6-month pause, and now a 2-year pause. But at some point, we need to stop delaying the decision and make one. If it were my decision, no new data centers in Montgomery County. Many elected leaders who recognize the downsides of this project are still willing to consider a hyperscale data center in Dickerson. Montgomery County is a community of 1.1 million people with some of the highest cost of living and utility costs in the country. Just because a data center might be built somewhere doesn't mean it needs to be built here. We're not stuck, we're not cornered, and we're not powerless. We have the ability and the responsibility to choose what our future will be. We need more leaders with the courage to choose a clear path, one that leads to a brighter future, not one of uncertainty and exploitation. As someone with degrees in medicine and mechanical engineering, I'm excited about attracting technology companies to Montgomery County. But I also understand the public health and environmental impacts that some of these projects will create. They're not all equal. And saying no to data centers is not anti-growth. In fact, it's the better economic strategy, and I'll tell you why. Imagine using that land in Dickerson for advanced manufacturing, like a facility producing solar inverters, an essential component of renewable energy production. A project like that would create hundreds of permanent, good-paying union jobs, compared to a few dozen permanent jobs that a hyperscale data center would create. And just as importantly, businesses want certainty. When government keeps kicking the can down the road, we send a message that Montgomery County cannot make decisions. Companies notice that, investors notice that. We must be clear about the industries we welcome and the industries that we do not want here. We do not need a data center that will generate hundreds of thousands of metric tons of carbon and derail our already out of reach climate action plan. We do not need higher utility costs for our residents, but what we do need is economic growth, job creation, and a vision for the future that reflects Montgomery County's values. Let's make a decision, let's move forward, and let's find the courage to say no.
Thank you. Next, Robert Eaton.
Hi, my name is Robert Eaton. I've lived in Montgomery County for a good part of my life, very much a long-time resident. I am also a two-time veteran of Iraq, where I did 2 combat tours with the U.S. Army. And I am here to advocate for us to adopt at least a 2-year moratorium. Not because I think 2 years is enough, but because I understand that's the minimum that we can adopt as a moratorium. The reason I would advocate this way is because the more I learn about these data centers, the more they remind me of the burn pits that myself and my comrades in Iraq encountered, on a regular basis there. At the time, those were seen as an expedient way to remove our waste, but in the long term, we found that this expediency very much came at a significant cost. I myself am lucky that I don't have any significant health effects, but many of my comrades who I speak to on a regular basis are not so lucky. And these health effects are for a lifetime in many cases. So I would urge this council to consider that when considering these data centers. I came here with the intention of also, bringing up all of the negative environmental statistics, the statistics on water use. But at this point, I would just be repeating what numerous other people have already said. I'll only say in that regard that although some of the claims might appear somewhat alarmist or hyperbolic, as far as I can tell from the research I've done, they do substantially appear to be true based on the science we have. What I do want to spend the rest of my time addressing is arguments that these data centers will bring jobs, that they're necessary for economic growth. I would urge everybody to consider, do we need these jobs? I checked what the Montgomery County's unemployment rate is. The rate is currently 4.1. That's actually pretty much full employment as far as most economists are concerned. If we go significantly lower in our unemployment rate, it's actually going to hurt businesses in many cases because businesses will not be able to find the workers they need in many cases. What our county is lacking is not necessarily jobs. It's affordability and it's housing, all of which would be negatively impacted by these data center processes. And to the extent that we do need construction jobs, well, more housing is the answer, not data centers. Like these jobs can come from just about any project. They don't have to come from data centers. And data centers, once used, take up huge amounts of land that can no longer be used for housing or any other, project that could lower costs in this county, which is one of the main problems that we face. It's not unemployment. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. More housing now. Love it. Thank you. Next one, Sandy Rosenblatt.
See if I got that right. All right. Good afternoon. I'm Sandy Rosenblatt, and I live across from the White Flint Metro Station, and I take care of the sick and elderly population who have Alzheimer's till they die in Northern Virginia. And I'm coming here to, I'm just a regular citizen and telling you my concerns. I really knew that everyone would be sharing statistics, so I didn't even bother with any of that. And I'm here to share that I'm in support of a 2-year moratorium on data centers, and quite frankly, I don't think that's long enough. I'm also here to share what's probably behind everyone sharing these statistics with you, and these are mine. And I'm also not anti-progress or tech. I do not consent to draining and polluting already depleted and overtaxed water systems, both locally and as well as globally, as it compromises my values. Water is one of the planet's most valuable resources, and we all know we can't survive without it. I cannot choose exposing the people and wildlife to even more air and noise pollution, impacting their health and well-being, as that's asking me to stop caring about them. I cannot choose our local farmers struggling and diminishing local food supplies due to our lack of water. I cannot choose rising energy bills knowing how many will be financially burdened by that. I cannot choose damaging more land and the trees that clean our air, filter our water, muffle the noise pollution, cool down rising temperatures, and are needed to sustain all life. Mother Nature's first aid kit, if you will. I can't choose destroying our vital ecosystems and killing more wildlife, as too much of that has already been done in our county as it is, due to overdevelopment. I spend a lot of time in nature and in the trees in the area, and our streams are empty. I cannot call data center development progress, as many of you do, because that, for me, is I worry about robbing the young ones, my niece and nephew, future generations, from clean and potable water. I ask the council to look up and pay attention to us, see us. We're here, and we are we the people. Think about us, all the people who have come out in droves all over the country to tell you our concerns. We've been so loud, we woke up Erin Brockovich. I mean, y'all should be worried about that. When's the last time you heard her name? We, the people, are telling you we're worried. We want transparency. We want clean air, clean water, and integrity. We all are we the people. The people were here before are we the people. And I'm going to end with a beloved quote. I am the Lorax, and I speak for the trees. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Virginia Quesada.
Honorable council members, President and Vice President, thank you for this opportunity to testify in support of Bill 2426. I'm Virginia Casada, and I'm a resident of the town of Washington Grove. Through my work on the issue of municipal streetlight ownership in Maryland, I learned several things that really relate to the data centers. First and foremost, Maryland is an energy desert. In a recent report by the U.S. Information Agency, Maryland consumes 6 times more energy than it generates. Saving energy is critical when your region doesn't generate enough energy. Municipal streetlights are typically the largest of a city or town's electricity cost. Most of our municipalities do not own their streetlights. They're owned by PEPCO, a regulated public utility. Despite a 2007 Maryland law allowing the option of municipal streetlight ownership, no Maryland municipality has yet been able to purchase their streetlights. The energy demand in Maryland is increasing rapidly, but PEPCO has only upgraded 6% of the 66,000 streetlights in our region to energy-efficient LEDs. At the same time, for 19 years, PEPCO has hindered the opportunity of Maryland municipalities to upgrade streetlights to LED themselves, thereby conserving energy and saving money. So how does this relate? It was only through the intervention of the Maryland Public Service Commission, who responded to the advocacy of Maryland municipalities, that we've made any progress on the option of municipal streetlight ownership, which universally is shown to conserve energy and save costs. So even with the strong support and regulation of the Maryland Public Service Commission, it was very slow and difficult to get equitable treatment to economize our energy use, like 5 years. Therefore, without a strong and vital regulatory framework on data centers in our county and state, we'd be completely SOL. Data centers bring no local benefit. They just rob us of our precious resources, both power and water. We also run risks of serious pollution, as you all have heard. Our county needs more than a 6-month moratorium on this issue in order to have the time to set up a regulatory framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Last call for Chavlis Davis. Is that person here? Okay, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to call the next panel. I have Ashley Goulber, Christina Kovac, Ann LaBrade, Sue Wheaton, Bina Greenspan, and Jean Stackler. If you can please state your name right on top and turn on your mic. Is Ashley, is that you? Okay,
Yeah, this is Ashley Wolver. We've probably all heard numerous accounts detailing the dangerous ecological impacts of data centers, whether it is the diesel generators, extreme noise, both audible and inaudible frequencies, increased water and electric usage. But I'd also like to point out my concerns with the other applications of these data centers. There is no doubt in my mind that useful work can be done with AI, for example, medical research, but it also powers much of the, quote, work being done by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. This organization abducts and murders our neighbors, abuses them in concentration camps, and increasingly terrorizes our communities across the country. But it is not just close to home that I'm worried about. AI powers our military in increasingly catastrophic ways. We have confirmation of its ongoing use during the vicious attacks on Iran that began with the murder of more than 160 small school children. Sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
Do you want to take a minute and come back? Or you can just look at me and speak from the heart. That's usually better. It's okay, don't worry. But we're here and we heard you. Thank you so much for coming today. Okay. We are going to move on with Christina Kovac. Is that person here? No. Anne LaPrade. What about Sue Wheaton? No. Okay. Bina Greenspan? No. Jean Steckler. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I want to thank all the members of the council for giving us this opportunity to present our reactions to this issue that's close to many of our hearts. I want to thank Eric for at least giving us a 6-month moratorium, but 6 months is clearly not enough time to do the kind of in-depth analysis and research that is needed to do an independent study. I wouldn't want to rely on a study where organizations who would benefit from the decision to go forward with a data center would be relied on. We need independent research. And at this point, there's been no scope of what kind of research would be done. There's been no identification of who would do that research. There's been no budget assigned to doing the research. I think within 6 months, we barely would be able to present a budget, never mind conduct and conclude the study. So 2 years is certainly better than 6 months. And as over that time, we're learning from our neighbors the damage that's been caused. I think I understood that the state of Virginia had trouble meeting their budget this year because the cost to the state for remediation was far more than the taxes that came in to the state from the many data centers that they have there. They initially started inviting data centers in and giving them tax rebates for economic development reasons. And it turns out, I think, that each year the drain on the state budget goes from $50 million plus. So it's a looming danger, and we only need to look at our next door neighbors to see how much damage it's done on the state coffers to support these data centers. Regarding the organizations who have purchased the land and the ones that are, we're told, who are going to be doing the development. So I guess that's Terra Green and Atmosphere Data Centers. We don't know anything about, at least I don't know anything about who they are, what projects they've done before, what's been the status of the projects that they've done before.
Thank you for being here in your time. I'm going to call the next panel. It is Sarah Stemmen, Claire Everhart, Rebecca Kimmel-Etten, John Kelly, William Sinot. If you can, let's see. So Sarah is not here. I see. Claire, not here. Okay. Rebecca, not here. Okay. John Kelly, is that you? Can you please turn on your mic, sir? Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for having this hearing this afternoon. I'm one of those people, I just learned about this, how the data centers a few weeks ago, and I felt like I had to show up. And the more I've read about it, the little I've read about it, and hearing the testimony today of the people, I support the 2-year moratorium plus. It's even worse than I had imagined. And one of the things in listening to the conversation, the testimonies today, there was this emphasis on the economics. I've worked in D.C. for decades as an economist, so I know the economics. But I was kind of very surprised the way the economics was emphasized as opposed to the health, the environmental, and the quality of life issues. The reason you have an economy is for a quality of life, to feed people, for have a good living. So the health, the quality of life should come before anything else. There's no need for me to go over the wonderful testimony that these people, the other people who supported the 2-year moratorium. The two things that I'd rather focus on, a couple of things that concern me, is the information in the process. Again, I was one of the people who didn't have the information. I think it's very important that the information on the damage or the effects, the ill effects of the data centers that they can have, that this gets out to the public. If there were a public debate of and between any of you council members for it or against it, and taking the testimony of all these people that spoke about this before, I think clearly the vast majority of people in Montgomery County would be against data centers. And that kind of vigorous debate has to take place. The average citizen, they don't have the time, the effort. It's your job as these elected officials to articulate these issues and to explain them to the public. And if you disagree, to have a vigorous debate between you of why you believe what you believe. You say you're going to set up a working committee. I've seen how working committees before, and this should not go away and have a working committee make a decision, a recommendation, and say, well, I'm voting for the recommendation of the working committee. No, it's the responsibility of the council members to do their own research, to do their own job, to confront these issues and to argue with them publicly, vigorously with each other. These are important issues, as the other speakers have said before. And the role of government is to protect the average citizen, the large corporations.
Thank you, sir. Next, it's William. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is William Sinnott. I'm a resident of Dickerson, and I support the moratorium. We focus a lot about environmental costs and kind of costs in general, and one thing I think that's been missing from this debate is there's an assumption that there is real economic upside to this. And if you look at, say, let's just take Atmosphere, for example. Most of the data center projects that are being funded now are being funded with firm commitments from companies like OpenAI, Oracle, Anthropic, that are actually, they have made promises about the capacity they're going to use. If you go on Atmosphere's website, right, they're soliciting customers. So they're already behind the game in terms of the economic upside that they're actually going to be able to deliver to the community, assuming that they can deliver any at all. But once you break ground in the data center and you start building it, the costs that the community is going to incur, that's already happened. So if this doesn't actually work out and there's no real upside, the money doesn't come in, the community has to bear the cost, and they just leave, right? I mean, like, it's a California-based company, their backing is overseas investors, it's just an investment that didn't pan out. But for people that live in the community and for the county, those costs remain here. This is just kind of a case in point of a concrete example of it. I don't know how many people in the council have actually been to the Dickerson site. There's only one road in and out. There's Martinsburg Road through Poolsville, and there's Route 28, which is the main commuting vehicle from people up county, from Frederick County to get into DC. I don't know what 24/7 construction traffic and heavy machinery is going to do to those roads, but I can't imagine it's going to be a good thing. And that is a cost that's going to be borne by the county. So you have to consider, like, what is the actual cost that are going to be borne by the county versus the potential upside that is all at this point entirely speculation. And there's kind of a third point that, like, from a pure technological standpoint, if you have a 2-year moratorium, you might actually know, like, what real state-of-the-art technology is going to be for these data centers. Currently, they're trying to build them over, offshore, submerged. Elon Musk is talking about putting them in space. But like this current technology and this model for a data center might be obsolete in 2 years. But if you build it here and say it doesn't pan out economically, then we're just left with this, thing that the county has to deal with, that the residents have to deal with. And that seems to be missing from the debate kind of above and beyond the environmental impact. And just sort of like a last point, take a lot of stuff from like Loudoun County. People talk about looking across the river Loudoun County. I grew up in Loudoun. It looks very different now than when I grew up there. But one thing that kind of strikes me about this like empty kind of data center idea that I keep going back to is that for decades, maybe 20 years, there was this massive empty WorldCom campus in Loudoun County that just sat there because the data bubble or the .com bubble burst. I don't know if that's going to happen with data centers or with the AI stuff, but it's something I think about in reference to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The last in-person panel will be Jacqueline Moore, Ravi Subramaniam, Shannon Brasher Shee, and I see that Sarah Tingley is in person today instead of virtual. We'll start with Jacqueline Moore. Turn on your mic, please, in front of you. There you go. Thank you.
I'm Jacqueline Moore, a retired MCPS teacher. I've lived in Montgomery County since June of '90. You can't make a billionaire's omelet without cracking a few million poor people as eggs. A hyperscale data center is the very definition of a billionaire's omelet. We must do better. If shown to not be working in the public interest, as defined by FERC, even lawmakers can face prison time, something to keep in mind. I'm disturbed by the appearance that elected members of the County Council, appointed members of the Planning Board, and the Planning Department staff are choosing winners and losers when it comes to the question of allowing hyperscale data centers here. Your job is to be the rising tide that lifts all boats. Your decisions will set the goalposts for which farms succeed and which farms fail, which residents' home values will remain steady or increase, and which will decrease at a fast clip, which Montgomery County Public School children and which communities of color will be exposed to unhealthy air, water, and noise, and which will have safe places to learn and play, and which residents on wells in the Poolesville-Dickerson area will maintain access to clean water, and which will lose water pressure and have their wells run dry. Maryland will release a comprehensive data center report in September 2026. It must be considered before revisiting and rewriting the ZTA. Has anyone spoken with the various military installations situated along the Potomac yet? Has anyone spoken with the Maryland Watermen's Association and the downriver commercial fishermen whose livelihoods depend on good quality water? Commercial watermen need healthy water steaming with healthy crabs, oysters, fish, and subaquatic vegetation. We definitely don't need more PFAS in our waterways. We recently experienced a huge sewage spill, and then there was a jet fuel spill in the Piscataway Creek, which is also a Potomac tributary. How much can one river take? Has anyone engaged with the Washington, D.C. government and the governments of the counties and towns that share borders along the Potomac? We are in a prolonged period of drought. The ZTA has no language about data center water usage during periods of drought. Our aquifers have been declining for decades. According to the American Lung Association's State of the Air 2026 report, there are 14,616 cases of pediatric asthma in Montgomery County. Before you make your decision, arrange to spend a 30-minute recess period with a severely asthmatic MCPS student on a hot, humid Montgomery County day. If you can't squeeze this in before the end of the school year, which is this week, ask Montgomery County Parks and Rec staff to let you shadow a severely asthmatic child at one of their outdoor summer camp programs. In my written comment submission, I included a long list of must-haves, too many to squeeze into 3 minutes. I hope you take them seriously. They're essential to ensuring no harm is done. At every step, ask these questions. How will my decisions affect everyone who lives and works in Montgomery County as well as those who live and work downriver and across the river? Do I want Montgomery County to be a place where younger members of my family will choose to live? Generations of my fourth graders, one of whom actually works in this building, learned how their actions impact our waterways. My final question is not are you smarter than a fourth grader, but rather are you as smart as a fourth grader?
Thank you. Next, Mr. Subramanian. Oh, no. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Ravi Subramaniam. I'm a retired scientist from the Environmental Protection Agency and currently a volunteer with Third Act. I live in Montgomery County. I urge the County Council to support Council Member Will Javando's bill establishing a two-year moratorium on new data center development in the county. I'm not necessarily opposed to data centers, but we need to exercise good governance on the matter. We need time to establish clear rules, standards, and safeguards before beginning the process of approving data centers. At present, Montgomery County does not have regulations specifically designed to address the unique impacts of data centers. Developing these regulations requires careful study, public input, and due diligence. It cannot be and should not be done in the rush in which it's being done across the country. Because once these facilities are built, the decisions are indeed difficult, if not impossible, to reverse. Several critical assessments are needed before any approvals move forward. First, the country needs appropriate zoning laws for data centers that protect from excessive noise and air pollution. Second, an assessment of the impacts on our water resources, both water supply as well as groundwater, particularly as climate change places increasing stress on these systems. Third, what are the environmental implications of concentrated heat production, and are the mitigation efforts for these enough? Fourth, data centers consume enormous amounts of electricity. We need safeguards to ensure that utility rates, including the costs of infrastructure upgrades and increased capacity, are not shifted onto ratepayers. Montgomery County has made strong commitments to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and addressing climate change. We should not approve developments that undermine these goals by increasing reliance on fossil fuel generated electricity. So finally, any future data center development should be required to produce its own source of electricity and insistently clean electricity. A 2-year moratorium will provide the necessary time to gather facts, engage experts and residents, and develop a comprehensive regulatory framework. 6 months is not enough for such kinds of assessments. I respectfully ask the Council to support this bill and use the time to establish the thoughtful policies that Montgomery County residents deserve. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next, Shannon Brescher-Shee.
Thank you for hosting this public meeting. My name is Shannon Brescher-Shea, and I live in the Lincoln Park neighborhood of Rockville, just over a mile from here. It's a wonderful neighborhood full of places to play and people who care about each other. But what people may not realize unless they live in the neighborhood is that it directly borders an industrial area. On one side, my house is less than a quarter mile from an area zoned for industrial. On the other, it is the same distance from a field owned by Washington Gas, which unloads natural gas off of heavy diesel trains and puts it into pipes under that field. Perhaps considering the zoning, it is not surprising that Lincoln Park is a historically black neighborhood. Since its founding in 1891, the residents have consistently faced environmental risks and injustices due to racism. While it is more diverse racially these days, there are still many residents whose families have lived there for generations. There are also many blue-collar workers, retirees, renters, and others with limited financial resources. Considering all of this, I am concerned about the proposal for data centers to be limited to industrial areas. This is simply not a strong enough limitation. The fact is, there are plenty of people who live near industrial areas. Like many residents in my neighborhood, people living near industrial areas have faced longstanding environmental and health risks because of existing development. They're often also the ones with the least time, energy, and political power to fight any proposed data centers or other development. We do not deserve to be exposed to the noise, lights, air pollution, and other risks of data centers simply because we are living in an area with housing that is more affordable than other parts of the county. All people in Montgomery County deserve safe, affordable housing for their families. Data centers put that at risk. With that in mind, I applaud a proposed moratorium on new data centers in the county. Considering the large risks and limited benefits, a 2-year moratorium would be much safer than a short 6-month one. I urge you consider everyone in the county, no matter their level of power or economic standing, when making this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Sarah Tinley here? No? Okay. Thank you. We're going to move on to our virtual session. We're going to start with Elena Rep, if she's on. No? Hannah Donart? No? Jacob Potts? Yes. Mr. Potts, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we do. You have 3 minutes. You may start right now.
Thank you very much. So I recognize that a lot of smarter and more educated people have spoken before. So many people have hit the nail on the head, but I'll just say this. I've never been involved in local politics before. I've never been driven to be involved in local politics until the issue of data centers entered my community. I think that there are a lot of people in America right now who are doing the same thing and feeling the same way that I do. Here's my statement. Good afternoon. My name is Jacob Potts, and I've been a Montgomery County resident for several years. I moved to Montgomery County due to the community amenities and affordability and relative to the DC area. However, I feel that policy decisions, specifically ones involving data centers, endangers this. The short-term economic benefits of the building of centers and tax revenue does not outweigh the long-term community, economic, and environmental harms. And I do not trust the promises of large corporations like we've heard today. This is why I support the moratorium, and I'm happy to hear about the executive order issued last week. But I feel that 2 years provides far more time to address the effects. I implore the council to continue to explore opportunities to ensure that the citizens of the county are not affected by the electricity utilization of the data center. I additionally encourage the council to continue to look into a way to minimize water usage to ensure that it is done in an environmentally conscious effort. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I hear that we only have 2 more people virtually. So the next person that I have is, well, I want to double check. Is Tara Timley online, just in case? No. Okay, so then next we have William Sheehan. There you go. Hey, there you are. Go ahead, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay. First, I want to thank the council for giving us all the opportunity to talk. You've been very patient. You've heard a great deal today. My name is William Sheehan. I'm a resident of Barnesville, Maryland. I've been in Barnesville for 44 years. Someone earlier said that data centers are not new, but data centers on this scale certainly are new. Most of them across the great majority of data centers across the country are owned by Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Meta. They're in the service of AI, of artificial intelligence. The arguments that I've heard made in favor of data centers in Montgomery County today, some of them talk about money and tax revenues, but we heard testimony earlier from Susan Gallagher that the tax revenues would be less than 1% of MoCo's budget. And given all the concerns that you've heard today about all of the other impacts on so many other aspects of our life in Montgomery County that these centers would bring adverse impacts to, the money doesn't seem to be much of an incentive, less than 1% of the budget. I've also heard arguments about jobs. There might be some jobs, there will be some jobs if the data center is constructed, but there won't be many once that is constructed. And in fact, one of the hallmarks of AI, according to people who seem to know most about it, is that it's going to take away jobs. And if AI suddenly results in a lot of Montgomery County residents being out of work, that's going to put a huge strain on the county resources. So I think I'm in favor of a 2-year moratorium, although I think a strong argument can be made against these data centers entirely. I'm going to come back to that, but in the meantime, I think the 2 years is necessary to look at a number of issues, and I'll just mention a couple. One was raised by Madison Matthews in her testimony of the things that are happening in Memphis, Tennessee, and things that are happening in Georgia. I think the council really has to look into that. And over the next 2 years, we will learn so much more about the impact of these data centers on communities. The testimony of Adrienne Moman, I believe that was her name, she said that there are predictions of $20 billion a year in annual healthcare costs are going to be caused by these data centers. The next 2 years will give you a chance to see whether there's any truth to that. You can also already see what's happening in Virginia, but you can continue to examine the results in Virginia to see whether it's worth having them here. One other thing that I'm going to point out, one other point I'd point out that hasn't been raised today so far. Many economists and sophisticated market watchers believe that the current stock market is riding an AI bubble to repeated record highs, something like the Dutch tulip mania of the 17th century.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Sheehan. You can submit the rest of your testimony. I'm going to move on to the next person.
One more thing.
I really need to move on, but thank you so much. I had to be, okay. Ms. Catherine Scott.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to share information with everyone. And thank you to the council members for holding the session. My name is Catherine Scott. I've been a long-term resident of Silver Spring. I'm here to support the 2-year moratorium on permitting for data centers. I think some of the key concerns, we've heard all of them, but primarily it's the demand for water and the demand for energy. We know that the state of Maryland, or at least central Maryland, is in a state of drought, and that's expected to persist. It's a kind of a risky time to be adding more demand for water. Obviously, we know that the energy costs around here have been skyrocketing the last couple of years, and we know that data centers can add to that if they're not done well. So I really think that while data centers, they may be a necessary evil, but I don't think that the county is prepared to build them right at the moment. I think they need the 2-year moratorium in place where you can determine what the proper regulatory framework should be, take advantage of the sort of the newly arising research on the impact of data centers and try to do something that is the best we can do for our county and for ourselves. I think the comments earlier about it's not just a moratorium because that's useless in and of itself. That's just kicking the can down the line. What we need is a moratorium where we also have a plan of what is the research that needs to be done, what are the decisions that need to be made, what are the deliverables that will be done. So by the end of 2 years, we have a strong regulatory framework in place, and the industry knows that this is coming, so we're not going to miss the boat, so to speak. But I think it's critical that any legislation needs to look at things like the data center needs to provide its own power, and it needs to be renewable. We need to prevent cost shifting to the ratepayers. We need to avoid new sources of pollution, and we need to minimize water demand. Natural gas uses a tremendous amount of water, those plants, whereas solar and wind doesn't. We need to insist that the data centers use the most efficient technologies for water, such as immersive cooling as opposed to evaporative cooling. We need to focus on zoning issues to make sure that these sites are brownfield sites so that we're not taking good land out of circulation, but actually building where things are already sort of trashed. And we obviously need to have noise and heat mitigation steps in place. Finally, I just want to raise the issue of what is the economic case for the data centers? That hasn't been made clear. Is it just tax revenue? Is it because it's linked to all these other sectors that we need to have the data centers here? And how many jobs will this really produce? And are the tax incentives we're giving the right ones? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to double check with council staff. That was our last virtual speaker logged on. Okay, thank you very much. This public hearing is now closed. I'm going to move on to agenda item 15. It's a public hearing on expedited bill 25-26, capital improvements, special project, Wheaton Arts and Culture Center. You know who's excited. This bill will authorize the planning, design, and construction of the Wheaton Arts and Culture Center project in the Wheaton area. Action scheduled later in today's council meeting. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. This public hearing is now closed. Agenda item number 16 is a public hearing on expedited bill 26-26, Capital Improvements, Special Project, North Bethesda Fire Station, another good one. This bill will authorize the planning, design, and construction, I knew you'll laugh, of the North Bethesda Fire Station project in the North Bethesda and vicinity area. Action is scheduled later in today's council meeting. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. This public hearing is now closed. Agenda item number 17. The council is resuming day 16 of the legislative session for the final reading of two bills. The first is Expedited Bill 25-26, Capital Improvements Special Project, Wheaton Arts and Culture Center. Council staff, is there anything else that you need to add from our staff?
I don't believe so, Madam President. Happy to answer any questions. As you know, these bills are essentially a formality regarding these special projects that were already approved under the budget for FY27.
I felt that I had to say it, and you did explain it when we introduced this, but just taking care of business here. So is there a motion to approve Expedited Bill 25-26? Moved by Councilmember Don Lukey, second by Council Vice President Marilyn Balcon. All those in favor, please. Oh, no, this is a roll call, yes. I'm just tired. Okay, but you're going to start anyway. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lutke. Yes. Councilmember Lutke votes yes. Councilmember Mink. Yes. Councilmember Mink votes yes. Councilmember Sales.
Yes.
Councilmember Sales votes yes. Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart votes yes. Councilmember Glass. Councilmember Glass votes yes. Councilmember Katz.
Yes.
Councilmember Katz votes yes. Councilmember Friedson. Councilmember Friedson votes yes. Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans votes yes. Councilmember Jawando.
Yes.
Councilmember Jawando votes yes. Councilmember Balcom.
Yes.
Councilmember Balcom votes yes. Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez votes yes.
And it is approved. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to Expedited Bill 26-26, Capital Improvements, Special Project, North Bethesda Fire Station. Is there a motion to approve Expedited Bill 26-26? Moved by Councilmember Stewart, second by Council Vice President Balcom. This is another roll call. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lutke.
Yes.
Councilmember Lutke votes yes. Councilmember Mink.
Yes.
Councilmember Mink votes yes. Councilmember Sales.
Yes.
Councilmember Sales votes yes. Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart votes yes. Councilmember Glass.
Yes.
Councilmember Glass votes yes. Councilmember Katz.
Yes.
Councilmember Katz votes yes. Councilmember Friedson.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedson votes yes. Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans votes yes. Councilmember Jawando. Councilmember Jawando votes yes. Councilmember Balcom.
Yes.
Councilmember Balcom votes yes. Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez votes yes.
And it is approved. It's not even 5 p.m. So this meeting is adjourned.
On the U.S.